Information here from the
Very good. Good. Veronica, yeah.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the West Goshen Township Board of Supervisors meeting for Thursday, May the 21st. To start the meeting, will you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you and welcome. Please be aware this meeting is being live streamed on YouTube, and the meeting may also be audio or video recorded by people present in the room. The first item of business for us is public comment. Public comment is for something that is a new item in terms of question or comment for the board or staff. If you have a comment or questions about an agenda item, please hold it until that agenda item comes up. So is there anybody here who has an item of public comment that is not on the agenda? Yes, sir. Do you mind, please, if everyone could come to the microphone tonight? We have quite a large crowd, so it's easier to get your name and other people to hear you when you use the mic.
Hello, everybody. My name is Tom Edgecombe. I'm a resident of West Goshen, and I'm here for like a traffic safety issue, but it also ties in with the township. I went to the traffic safety meeting on May 12th, which was also attended by some Board of Supervisors. At that meeting, I was able to voice my concerns about the intersection of West Town Road, Falcon Lane, and Little Shiloh. We had a lot of good dialogue there. And then on May 15th, I contacted PennDOT and asked them to do a survey. They actually came out yesterday, which I was happy to see. The young gentleman did a survey of the intersection. I spoke with them. I told them my concerns. Some of my concerns, they said, would not fall under PennDOT and the traffic safety of PennDOT. That would fall under West Goshen Township as far as what they would have to attempt to do. So that's why I'm here. I don't want to rehash the whole meeting from the 12th, but I just want you to know that there was another accident on Tuesday. In my thoughts, a bad one. Another T-bone accident in the intersection. Car ended up on its side. Driver trapped, had to be, pulled out by the fire department. Both people were conscious. Both cars had to be towed. But it's the same type of accident. I actually went to the chief and asked if I could get all the accidents to record. These accidents go back to 1999. So the accident on Tuesday, it was the same scenario as the first accident that I saw in 1999. I think we could do better. We need to do better because it's just a matter of time for someone is seriously hurt or worse. And I believe that the traffic surveyors that came out yesterday said they'll be in touch with the township. I guess they give you a report. But like I said, some things aren't on them. So I know the township probably knows by this time the things that I brought up, that the line of sight on that road is bad at best. And if we could move ahead and get those things corrected, that would do a lot to make that a safer intersection. Thanks for listening.
Well, if I could ask you, from your right-to-know request going back to 1999, how many accidents have there, reportable accidents have there been at that intersection?
Well, as of the one from Tuesday, that was 85 accidents, 68 are reportable, for an 80% rate of reportable accidents. And by reportable, I mean a vehicle has to be towed, or both vehicles or whatever, and an ambulance needs to care for someone. So I live right on the corner. I've been there 22 years. I've witnessed a lot of these or the aftermath, and I just think it's time, and I'm on full board now. So I just want to bring it to everyone's attention. You can grab hold of this and help.
Thank you, Ted. I think we did have a couple of actions on our police traffic safety unit from that meeting the other week.
Okay.
I forget the specific one, so I know the ball is in their court in terms of some of the things, and it sounds like you have PennDOT's attention as well. So we'll absolutely try to make something happen in terms of what can be done to improve that intersection.
So we greatly appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else for the public comment? Margie?
Hi, good evening. Just a quick question for you tonight. Margie Swart. I attended the Park and Rec meeting last night, and one of the members from the Park and Rec committee asked the supervisor that was there in attendance, Mr. Wallman, just for an update on the 168 acres of open space. And I thought I heard, so I just wanted clarification on when that's going to be transferred to the township.
Chris, do you want to comment on that? I know you've been in contact with.
To the best of my knowledge, they're still working through punch list items. We haven't been given a date for dedication.
Okay. Did I hear Mr. Wallman say he thought maybe we might be looking at next year now, not the fall? Because I know we've both heard the fall, and that's been like for the last 3 years we heard it was going to be the fall. So
I can't answer that question. It depends on the developer addressing the punch list items.
I did say that it may fall into next year.
Okay.
It could.
That's fair.
Chris, have they contacted your office at all for any sort of punch list inspection? Okay.
I mean, the onus is on the developer. We give them the punch list. If they correct the punch list and come with their legal request to transfer ownership, we'd have to look at the situation. But my expectation was that it should be something they could do this year.
Okay, and one last question. Had the board decided that the township was going to accept the park and the roads together or separately?
We had asked the developer to bring the two together if at all possible, because we don't want a public park where we've got private roads still in terms of the main access to it. So I don't know where they are with that. That was 2 years ago that we kind of indicated that was our preference. And so far, I think we've only got a punch list for the park.
With the exception of Arrow.
Do we have a punch list for
No,
Arrow?
Arrow was taken.
Yeah, that's Margie's question.
Okay, so,
It's a question of timing. We don't want to accept the road, Arm Avenue and all that. If there's still going to be heavy construction traffic going across it. And we don't want to have that situation where we would have to inherit it and have the road that have to be repaired. So it's a matter of timing.
okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Margie. Anyone else with a question? Stephen, you have a question tonight?
Just,
Would you mind going up to the microphone,
Yeah.
please? Is the mic on? I don't hear it.
Check 1, 2, check 1, 2. There we go. Just 3 brief comments. Stephen Lyons, Chair, Save Forsyth Farm. Just to echo Mr. Edgecombe's concerns and our community's concerns about the increase in traffic, are also attached to that is Mr. Kravitz's intentions to build 10 homes on 8.5 acres of land, which is not suited for development. We're very concerned about his business practices in terms of the homes that he builds, some of which have been unfinished, and has been involved in litigation with other homeowners in other townships. So if he is planning to build 10 homes on 8.5 acres of land, he's going to create more volume. We're very concerned about that. And I just want to encourage us to hopefully think in a pathway forward that we can work together to really save this enormous history. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else with a question? Doug?
Good evening, Doug White, West Goshen. May the board and Chris please consider having Mr. Peterson attend the planning commission meetings on a regular basis.
I've talked with Chris about that, and we would have him attend if there's like a major application that's before the planning commission. We have to pay for Chris's services to attend the meetings.
That's okay. Well, it is just a request.
Okay.
And just,
But we have talked about that when there's a major application.
So is there something more specific that you feel is lacking right now that you could explain?
it was always helpful to have a township engineer at all of the meetings to help explain the plans, the little nuances, things about the township code. It was very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else with a public comment? Very good. We'll move on to the next agenda item, which is the one I think most of you are here for, which is information on the Aqua Reservoir on Fern Hill Road. So I thought about what kind of process we could use for this, and I think the best way to run this agenda item is for me to walk through what we know, where we are, and what comes next in the near term. So by doing that, hopefully I'll answer some of the questions that you'll have. And then once I've finished that, we can open it up for your comments. So you can make a public comment about this particular agenda item. And then also Q&A. So if you have just a question, and we might have an answer to it, we'll do that. Obviously, we may not have answers to all the questions that you're going to have tonight, but we'll try our best with what we know. The most important thing is that we listen to you tonight. The board wants to hear from you and get your input on the key questions. And there are two key questions in my mind. I'm sure the board, if they've got others, will let you know, but there are two key questions. One is, where we are in this process is that there's still an option. The option being that this could become township property, which is what the focus has been in terms of the Aqua letter and what I'll be describing later. But there remains an option that we do not take this property and it stays private property with Aqua. There's a different course of action that might end up with their retention of the property, and we can discuss that as part of the Q&A piece. So I just want to make clear that this is not some kind of done deal. It's an open option at the moment for the township to take it or not to take it. So we'd love to hear from you what your thoughts are on that. The second thing is, if the preference of residents, and the board does have a preference for taking this property, I just want to make sure you're aware of that. If the preference of the residents and the board ends up being that the township should become the property owner, we want to also know what are the key considerations that we need to work through with Aqua in developing a written agreement with them for the property transfer. So what are the key issues that you would want us to be aware of as we move through a legal process, and we'll explain what the steps are in that, to get to a written agreement with them for a transfer of the property. Now, this isn't the only opportunity you're going to have for that, but this is a kickoff to hear what you have to say. So I'll explain what some of the near-term next steps are as well. But there's going to be another public meeting with Aqua present to do a presentation, at which time you'll be able to ask them some very specific questions that they are the ones probably who need to answer, and also to, again, raise issues for the board, because we'll be there in terms of what your concerns are, and that we can help then understand how we work with Aqua to make them part of an agreement of transfer, if that's where we decide to go. So that's where I'd like to run the meeting tonight. So I'll start off with a bit of explanation of the background. So about 2 years ago, Aqua reached out to the township to advise they would be assessing the long-term future of the Fernhill Reservoir, and asked if they determined that the reservoir dam were no longer needed operationally, would the township be interested in them donating the property to be kept as open space? And the board at that time indicated that we would be interested in a land donation subject to reaching a satisfactory agreement between the parties. That was 2 years ago. There was radio silence for a long time. And then fast forward to March of this year, and Aqua re-engaged with township staff and the board and advised that they had reached a business decision on the reservoir and have developed a preliminary project timeline. And we'll get into what that decision is in a minute. But we agreed that the first step was for them, was for us to publicly announce the situation to ensure full transparency to residents, and to hold a listening session to hear your concerns and get input to the process. And that's what we're doing tonight. Like I said, I'm going to talk about other steps in a minute. So we asked that Aqua provide the emailed letter that was sent to the township, and that was a formal introduction to their planned project. So what I'd like to do now is, I don't know if you've all brought a copy with you, but I'd like to carefully walk through the 4 paragraphs of the letter and kind of make sure we all have a common understanding of where we are with what they intend to do. So just bear with me here. So I'm looking at their letter, and I'm looking at actually the second paragraph, which starts the township line dam. The township line dam, built in 1935 and the reservoir it created, was a drinking water source for surrounding customers. The dam now requires extensive investment to satisfy the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection's current spillway capacity requirements. After reviewing several options that generally include either retaining or removing the dam, Aqua Pennsylvania is choosing to partially remove the dam, as the structure no longer serves its original purpose. What I think they mean by that is that the water source is no longer operationally required by them. So they have a reservoir there that is not needed for their supply of water to their customer base. So their analysis showed that the cost to improve the dam's spillway capacity outweighed the overall benefits of retention. So since they have no use for the water to invest, I don't know what, we can ask them when we meet with them, probably several millions of dollars to upgrade the spillway in the dam. Clearly, from a business perspective, for a private company, they made the decision that they do not want to do that. It's their property, their reservoir, their decision under PADP regulation not to increase the capacity of the spillway. So it says, we have owned the dam, we being Aqua, since 1998, but do not use it for daily operations. The partial removal of the dam will not only reduce the associated public risks of a potential dam failure in the future, but will also improve stream water quality and therefore health and wildlife in the Chester Creek watershed. So the issue is the spillway is not sized to adequately take the kind of severe storm event inflows into the reservoir. If the spillway cannot pass that water downstream, then you could overtop the dam. Overtopping the dam has a risk of the dam failing. If the dam fails, the reservoir is not contained, so it is a risk. And that is the latest regulations that the DEP want to enforce, is insisting Aqua either brings the spillway capacity up to meet that current standard, or alternatively, which is what they've decided, remove the dam. So that's the first paragraph. We have no jurisdiction or regulation over Aqua. They are public utility regulated by the PUC. The lake is private property, and it's their business decision. So if anyone had questions about what can the township do to prevent them making that decision, we don't have any jurisdiction over them. Okay, I'll move on to the second paragraph, which is basically outlines the benefits from an environmental aspect in terms of reverting to a natural flowing water course through that property. I don't necessarily need to read this. Some of you may disagree with the benefits of this versus what it currently is in terms of a reservoir and the wildlife associated with that. It would be an ecological change. But I want to reinforce again here that both Aqua and the township will not develop this property. So they do not want to have the property developed and end up with potential issues with the water course itself. We don't want to have it developed. We want to preserve it as an open space, as a park preserve. So in either case, meaning whether we take it or it stays with Aqua, I believe, subject to further discussion with Aqua, and a legal agreement could be reached, where the appropriate legal instrument would be used, like a conservation easement, etc., to ensure that development cannot take place. Development meaning anything, business, residential, etc. So it would be open space. Now, if it becomes a park preserve, that would mean some kind of potential public access with a walking trail. It does not mean ball fields, etc., etc. Okay, so just want to make sure you understand what the board's thinking is at this point on that. But it would be public accessible, probably with a walking trail around the whole property. Again, we're listening to what you think about this as we go forward. So that's the second paragraph. The third paragraph is about their plan. So I said they have now developed a plan. So what can we expect in the coming months is how it was phrased. Aqua will draw down the water in the reservoir under permitting from the Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission and the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection starting in the summer of 2026. This initial drawdown will be approximately 8 to 10 feet. It's a vertical drop, and the water surface elevation would then remain at the reduced level until the deconstruction project is ready to commence. So they intend to lower the water level now, which is part of this risk mitigation that I described. So in the short term, to alleviate the risk of a severe storm event overtopping the dam, the risk of a dam failure, by drawing down the level, of course, it creates a large capacity for inflow. So that's a short-term risk mitigation strategy. And it goes on. Design and permitting is currently underway and expected to be completed in the fall of 2027. So I looked at that and I did the math, and that's about a 18-month design and permitting project from where we are today. And that's how long it will take for them to develop a full plan and get approval from the state. and get a permit to do the dam removal. Obviously, there's a lot of considerations about how you drain the dam and all the rest of it. So the design work, the engineering work, getting to an agreement with us if it ends up being a property transfer, getting the permits, that's what they expect it to take, 18 months duration. The schedule for the partial dam removal will depend on receiving all the necessary permits and approvals from regulatory agencies and is subject to change. So again, these are preliminary estimates. These are just indicative for us to understand tonight. Currently, the construction is anticipated to start early in 2028 and extend into 2029. So I'm going to assume that's a 15-month project of work to partially remove the dam. So, you know, get your permits, go out bids, get the contractor signed, do the work, physical work, 15 months. By spring, summer of 2029, the work will be completed. So that's at the point at which an agreement, should we decide that's the direction to go, that it would become township property. Until that point, it would remain with ARCWA to do this work. At the completion of the project, ARCWA is proposing to transfer ownership of approximately 114 acres of the property to West Goshen Township. The proposed transfer would be an opportunity for the township to become stewards of the land and utilize the land for the benefit of its residents. ARCWA will maintain ownership of the Fernhill Operations Center. So there's a building that is accessed off Fernhill Road on the south side of the reservoir. It's an operations center. They have staff there that service the area. It's not just associated with the reservoir. And they propose not to relocate those folks. They want to keep that particular property. So in that case, Chris, I believe that would require a subdivision of a parcel of land that would remain private property for ARCWA.
That's correct.
So that would occur at the same time as property transfer. ARCWA intends to collaborate closely with the township regarding the future of the property. So that's what we're all about tonight. And then on the fourth paragraph, what comes next is how I've thought about this. We look forward to working cooperatively with the township and receiving the Board of Supervisors' input in connection with our compliance responsibilities throughout the project. We hope to partner with the township to schedule a public meeting in the near future to provide additional information and address questions from the township residents regarding the project. Please kindly advise us to several proposed dates and times during which an appropriate facility is available to host a public meeting, which is convenient for the Board of Supervisors. We will coordinate the availability of appropriate consultants, personnel, and leadership to attend on behalf of ARCWA. And in talking with ARCWA back as we plan to this process, we're looking at a June time frame. I don't think it would be the first 2 weeks in June. They need some time to get some renderings together of what they're proposing, pull a package of information and a presentation. So probably second half of June, we would look to have a special meeting, joint meeting of ARCWA with the board, with the residents of West Goshen, to hear what they have to say, get maybe some more project-specific details about how it all is done, what it will look like, etc., and give all of us a better understanding of the finished product. In terms of a process with ARCWA, we have received from them what is called a draft memorandum of understanding, which is really an agreement between parties to describe what working together could look like in terms of the outcome of the work. It's not the same as a legally binding written agreement, which is what we would ultimately head towards in terms of a transfer of the property donation equals sale, so to speak. But it outlines the intention of both parties and what the expectations are, so we don't go on some journey and then at the 11th hour find out that, well, that's not what we thought, that's not what you thought. So by having a memorandum of understanding, it allows us to at least get all the big pieces clear in each party's mind as to what is going to happen. So my personal view is, and we haven't discussed this much either with the board or with ARCWA yet, is we need to get through the public meeting with them, make sure we understand all the key issues that you either raised tonight or then, and then make sure that our MOU appropriately addresses those, and at that point we'd be in a position to move forward with that. Again, this is all predicated on assuming that you don't all rise up tonight and say, no way do we want the township to have this, we all want it to stay Aqua, because, like I said, that is still an option. So I've run through, I believe, what we know tonight. I don't think, I mean, there's a little bit more information, which hopefully if you ask Q&A we'll get to in terms of answers. Like for one example, I think Dorothy had asked a question about, are they doing an environmental assessment? And the answer to that is they are doing, forget the words right, they will conduct an environmental and hydrologic assessment as required to obtain permits from the regulatory agencies. So that is about doing what the impact is of draining down the dam, what they need, the water flow, the sequence of events, the volumes, the impact on it, etc. It is not what some people know as a phase 1, phase 2 environmental study to make sure there's no contamination on the land. So that would be, if we believe the township needs to do some due diligence there, which we don't know at this point, that would be incumbent on us to provide our own environmental consultant to do any due diligence required. So those are kind of some of the more details that still need to be worked through, if you like. So I've gone on for a while here. I hope I've been clear as to what we know and don't know. What I'd like to do is 2 steps. If anyone wants to get up and make a specific comment for the record, let's do that first. Hopefully, and then if you then we'll get into a Q&A around something. If you've still got a question I haven't answered, or you feel we might know the answer to, then we'll do that second session as well. So is there anyone who wants to make a public comment at this point about this particular item? Dorothy.
I write better than I talk, so I'm going to read what I wrote. Good evening, and thank you for adding this item to the agenda and giving the public an opportunity to voice our concerns. My name is Dorothy Burden, and I live at the Arbors at West Goshen. My interest in this project is really twofold. Number one, I chair the Sustainability Advisory Committee for the township, which I've been a member of since its inception 6 years ago. And number two, my unit happens to back onto a view of Fern Hill Lake, a privilege for which I paid $10,000 in 2014. I realize that there is no stopping the partial decommissioning of Township Line Dam and the subsequent draining of the lake from moving forward. As Sean said, it's a corporate decision, it's a business decision, and there's nothing anybody can do about it. So, contingent upon the approval of the associated regulatory agencies, that they do get approval, the project is moving ahead, and the obvious will happen. So my focus really is on what happens to the 114 acres of bare lake bed surrounding woods once Aqua's project is complete. In response to the township's request for the public's opinion regarding disposition and future of the property, I am offering the following feedback. I believe it would be in the best interest of the township and residents of the township for the township to accept the generous donation of 114 acres from Aqua and become its steward in perpetuity, if possible. And the key considerations that I thought of that would be associated with this memorandum of understanding to Aqua would, as Sean mentioned, include a conservation easement or other legal instrument to prevent future development and preserve the land in perpetuity as open space. That is a huge relief. And also that Aqua be responsible for the initial seeding of the lake bed with a native meadow and grass mix so that the exposed lake bed does not become host to the very many invasive plants that surround the lake currently. A couple other questions and considerations, and I don't expect answers tonight, but I'll just voice them for the record. One, can the drawdown of the lake be delayed so that we, the residents, can enjoy one final summer of aquatic and waterfowl life. It may not meet DEP's regulations, but it hasn't for a very long time, and another 12 weeks isn't going to make much of a difference, especially in light of last night's storm, which probably added a foot of water to that lake and it didn't overtop. So what's going to happen to the fish and turtles that inhabit the lake? I think one of them may be endangered. What happens if an endangered species is discovered during the course of the environmental assessment? Will the environmental report be made available to the public? And like East Goshen did for the Milltown Dam on Reservoir Road and possibly Hershey's Mill Dam, will West Goshen consider investing in development of a master plan for this parcel? For the record, if the parcel is not cultivated as meadowland, protected wetlands, and walking trails, the financial hit to adjacent residential homeowners is potentially 10 to 20% of our current home's value. Doing the math, for a unit that recently sold in the Arbors for $806,000, 20% comes to $161,200. It's a lot of money. I trust that West Goshen Township will proceed with acceptance of the land donation from Aqua with the intention of transforming it over time into a valuable and treasured community amenity and not the eyesore it would become if Aqua retained possession of it. Thank you. And I just want to add, for the record, I used to work for an engineering firm that had a contract with Aqua in 2016 to renovate the dam, to renovate Township Line Dam. And in a more recent communication with DEP, a plan for renovation of the dam had been submitted to them in 2022 and was not approved. So it's interesting to me, the timing of this, and golly gosh, I wonder if it has anything to do with Aqua's acquisition by American Water in 2027, but you know, that's all conjecture. But it is an interesting history of that dam. Chris, do you want this?
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dorothy. I think I tried to write some of your questions down. I have answers to 2 of them, I believe. So yes, Aqua have initially agreed in the draft MOU to provide their environmental hydraulic assessment. Whether it is what you expect in terms of the assessment of the impact on species, etc., I don't know. But whatever they do to get the permit is going to be public record, so we'll have it.
Okay, great. I actually made sure that was in there. I actually made sure that that was in the MOU, that they supplied a copy of the report, so I can say it.
And then all I can say is the initial preliminary discussion with the board has been that we will invest in this property. We will seek grants. We have time to go after state and county grants to invest in open space. I mean, all of you are aware that it's a big issue, certainly in Chester County, and there are state grants available as well. And this will not be the first time that a reservoir has been drained and turned into a public open space. And so Aqua, hopefully when we meet with them, I'll have some questions for them, I'm sure all you will too, around what does that process look like, even if the, and I'll say it, burden is on the township to invest in making it the kind of, what I believe ultimately will be a beautiful amenity for people in the area to use. I mean, it can be a combination of wetlands, meadow, stream, new plantings, trees, woodland, with a walking trail through it.
Like Longwoods Meadow Garden.
Yeah, you know, it's got a lot of advantages, I think, from becoming publicly owned, and the stewardship that we would provide. You know, again, it would be something that our public safety would support and everything versus what you would have with Aqua. I'm not trying to make a sales pitch, because if you really don't want it, we're here to listen, but you know, I think there are so many advantages to becoming a publicly owned asset, given that the township is so built out. I know Margie mentioned the woodlands, the Greystone Park, that is quite a nice tract, but this would be a beautiful tract as well. So
The natural creek that ran through will be there too.
I didn't take the time to read what they had described as the benefits ecologically to restoring it to a natural flowing stream, but Again, I'm not an expert to weigh in on whether those are true or partially true or not true, but I believe in 10 years' time, we should have an attractive amenity there for the community. Well, I'm not planning on dying in the next 10 years. I don't know about anybody, but I'm hopefully going to see it around. So, all right. So, Dorothy, thank you for that. I've answered what I could. A lot of those questions hopefully will be peppered at when we have this meeting scheduled. Is there anyone else who wants to read a public comment before we go to Q&A? Margie?
I wish I was as prepared as Dorothy, but I will read from the November 7th, 1997 application of the Westchester Municipal Authority. I'm sorry, it was the application of Philadelphia Suburban Water Company, which is now Aqua. So this was an application to the Bureau of Fixed Utility Services. Page 6 or 7 of that agreement reads, Township, page 6, letter E, Township line dam and watershed land. If PSW, Philadelphia Suburban Water, which is now Aqua, ultimately retires the Fern Hill treatment plant and retires the reservoir from service as a source of water supply, either to the Fern Hill plant or any other PSW owned or operated treatment plant using Chester Creek as a source of supply, PSW shall first offer the property for sale to the authority, which is now defunct, the borough, or any successor for the sum of $8,344 before offering the property for sale to any other third party. So I don't know if Aqua has addressed that with you. Are they even aware that the contract that was the application, that this was first to be offered to the borough? The borough sold the property and the water assets to Aqua for $22.4 million in 1998. So the borough received all that money and they've been whittling it down since '98 to cover their shortfalls. I think there's still maybe $1 million or a couple million left. So I just hope that is discussed first. Did they mention what they're doing with the Green Hill location? They have operations or offices?
Yeah, there was no discussion of that. This was just the property off Airport Road.
Only because the Fern Hill location, I mean, that's just prime. I feel like we need to negotiate that piece of property. If we're gonna get the 114 acres of flood zone right now on flood maps that I looked at, it's designated floodland. So I don't know who would buy it or if it's even possible to be developed. So I would like the township maybe to find out whether or not it is developable, because if it's simply not, I just see the dollar signs in it. I see some benefits, but I feel like we're getting just what may be left of a polluted water source. There's a reason Aqua no longer uses it as a water source since at least before 2020. I'd like to know why it's no longer a water source. So there's plastic recycling businesses that border it. We have another hazardous waste recycling center just not even a mile away. So I worry, I'm concerned about our groundwater and just what's underneath. So those are just some of my concerns.
Okay, so let me summarize your concerns. You think there's an agreement where the Aqua actually needs to offer it to the borough before ours, and you're also concerned that there could be polluted water source that makes the amenity not as attractive?
Yes.
Okay, so we actually have an agenda item later tonight about the due diligence we did behind Oldie. which does not show any contamination at all as surface water, so that's good. So I hear from you also that you don't think it's a good idea for the township to take it.
Not right now, I mean, we just learned of it.
So you're raising some questions, that's
Yeah,
all.
I'm raising
Okay.
some questions.
Fair enough.
Okay,
Thank you.
I like hearing from people that think it's a great idea, because, yeah.
Okay.
I'm
Doug, do you have a
flexible.
comment?
Doug White, West Goshen Township. Would it be reasonable to, before the township accepts this land, to request Aqua or American Water to put money aside in escrow in case the township would have to spend a lot of money to remediate the property or to convert it back into the amenity that we're talking about, to have Aqua possibly help pay for that? Would that be okay to ask, or?
That property is contaminated. The due diligence and the remediation would fall on Aqua. They are the owner of the property. They would be the responsible party to clean up that property.
Before the township takes it?
It could either be either way. You could either have them do it, hold off and have them remediate totally, or you can take the property over while they're still remediating. But they would still be the responsible party, and DEP would require them, if there is contamination, there's no proof there is yet.
Okay.
In the event there is contamination, then they'll have to clean it up to the standards, state standards
Okay.
that DEP requires. And
So-
there's
so-
no way around that, so.
Okay, so you have that. What about other costs that might come?
From an environmental standpoint?
Either from that, or if, if the stream bank restoration is needed, or
Yeah.
to convert the land over into a meadow.
So we need to do some due diligence around what options and what costs are involved with
Right.
doing that work.
Exactly.
We're at the same start of the process as
Yeah.
you're hearing about it, so we haven't asked Carol to say what is their view of, the options that would be available for this size of property and how much it might
Right.
cost. And what benefits might we get towards our stormwater MS4 permit by having
Right.
essentially, a new stream.
So, yeah, so I was just wondering if there's going to be all these future costs to the taxpayers, is it okay to, before the township takes this land, to ask Aqua to help?
Of course.
Pay
Yeah.
for it? Or
I mean, the first question you asked is a good one, because we could say, as part of the memorandum of understanding, we want Aqua to pay for our due diligence with environmental sampling.
Right,
So
maybe.
they're not going to do it unless we ask for it.
Or to have some sort of escrow account for the future, something like that. That's all, to help offset any future problems that could incur when we take this thing.
Okay, thanks. Anyone else with a specific statement to make, and then I'll ask if there's any kind of questions. You want to make a statement?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Rhonda Harris. I'm also in the Arbors at West Goshen. I'm not as, thanks for being prepared. I'm not as prepared, and I think that that's my comment. My comment is this seems like a very abbreviated timeline. The letter that we got was dated, I think, May 15th. We're talking about a public meeting mid-June. There's not a whole lot of time if we want to do a right-to-know request to get all the documents, which I intend to do. Also, we're being asked for a public comment. Right now, we don't even know what the township intends to do. We've heard what you think you want to do or may have a plan to do, but it's hard to give definitive answers on whether we want the township to take over the property or not without knowing any details. I think that we're working on a very abbreviated timeline here. And I was also wondering if there would be a possibility to put together a public committee. People who are in the public, who have an interest in this, and maybe we could put input on a memorandum of understanding, what's important to us, and what might be important to the township as well. That would be my comment. I have a lot of questions.
Yeah, those are great comments, and like I said, we're looking at trying to plan a meeting 3 weeks out from now, maybe 4. So towards the end of June to get Aqua in here and raise these questions with them. Well, we're just having our own kickoff now with, do we want to spend money now with Carroll Engineering to start looking at this? And before we start committing those funds, we kind of need a general feel as to whether you think ultimately it's a good idea for the township to own it or not. And I know it's a kind of chicken and egg with, well, what are you proposing and how much is it going to cost? So we're going to have to spend some money on coming up with a feasibility of what it could look like and how much it might cost. So we're probably going to have to commit to some money to do that. But before we even do that, I want to see what Aqua says they've done, what has been done at other locations and what it looks like and how long it took. So maybe it isn't 10 years and we'll still be alive. I don't know. So I understand the concern. I'm just saying you need to be on this journey with us. And we're not here as an enemy of what we're trying to do. You know, I get you. A right to know request. I don't know what you're requesting, but you'll probably get the same document we have.
Well, I think it's reasonable to get whatever, if they've applied for a permit from DEP, I think we should be entitled to know what that permit looks like.
Oh, yeah.
And if they've done studies,
Well, that would be a
we're
public
entitled
record.
to.
That's a public
That's a
record.
public
Right,
record.
that's a public record, so.
Right.
But that would be a public record through DEP, so you would need to request that through them.
Right, all I'm saying is it's going to take time. So even if I started today and I want to do my right to know to the DEP or whoever has these documents, it's going to take time to get them back and for us to digest them and look at them. It just seems like a very abbreviated, and I think it's on purpose. I think that there's a reason that this is an abbreviated timeline because I think Aqua doesn't want us to do whatever due diligence that we want to do. That's speculation on my part. I have no reason to say that.
I don't want to encourage that line of thinking because I disagree with it.
Okay.
They have been transparent with us. As Dorothy said, and it's obvious, it is a business decision they've made when they've looked at the cost of what it would take to maintain it as is. And it's money they have no use to spend on. They've approached us and said, do you want it? And we've started this journey together. I went through an 18-month design permitting timeline, so that means they haven't even submitted the applications yet. Whatever was in the past has not been approved. And so I don't feel what you said is a true statement.
Okay, and that's fair.
Yeah,
That's
I'd
fair.
also like to add that the dam is out of compliance, and having worked in the environmental field for 40 years, once something is out of compliance, you have certain timeframes that you have to meet with DEP, and they're out of your hands. And some of them are unreasonable, trust me.
Oh, sure.
But you do have to follow what they say. If not, you can end up in all type of litigation, consent orders, notice violations.
Understood. I just think that we're sort of working in the dark here because there seems to be a lot of information that Aqua has and they must have it and that they haven't shared with us. And now I feel like we're, again, in an abbreviated timeline to get the information. If they are not forthcoming and just providing it, which they should. I mean, if this is a partnership here, whatever information they have, if they've applied for permits, they should share that information with us. And in order for us to make these right-to-know requests, they take a long time. We've done it before. And for us to get them and digest them and figure out what they know and what they don't know, I'm also concerned, we back up to the reservoir. So we see the wildlife back there. There are nesting eagles back there, there are turtles back there, there are cranes. I want to know what they've done to assess what's going to happen when they train that way.
Fair enough. Okay. Other questions or comments?
Just one point of order. I called last year when they were pounding stakes in the ground. Mark Harris, arbors at West Goshen. When they were pounding stakes in the ground, I think I talked to yourself, supervisor on this, and I was told that any activity like that would go through the Planning Commission, which I went to and I attended last year. And what was alluded to me is that there were no plans like that at the time, that Aqua was going to do this type of activity at the time. Now, if it's obviously maybe it's because of the Sunshine Act or something like that, you guys can tell me. You had to keep quiet on that. But I thought, well, looks like a duck, walks like a duck, sounds like a duck, it's a duck. They don't use the water from that. I was also told that that is zoned residential. That's what came out of that meeting. I was told that 100 and some odd acres there is zoned residential.
So who told you this information?
It was at the planning commission. So I can only allude to the planning commission.
Chris, it's not zone residential, correct? It's
It is
BLI.
zone residential.
What's BLI then?
In the future zoning.
Yeah, but our updated zoning ordinance that's going to be
Different.
hopefully passed in the next couple of months is going to rezone
And
that
that was
parcel.
that was actually my main point on this, is that
To
I've heard about
BLI.
open property or anything like that. We can
Zone to what?
actively
I
ask
said
for.
to BLI.
It's a designation of zoning, but let's go back to what you're saying here. So you had information that the planning commission had no, I mean, the planning commission will answer a question that is there a development application coming to them for that property? And the answer is no, there isn't.
Mhm.
And then it
And
is zone
and we didn't know
residential.
we didn't know plans around that. So I was like, okay, well, I got it.
There's been nothing submitted.
Yeah, there is no plans around it. This bit.
Yeah, I don't understand, there never was.
Yeah, there never has been. And the planning commission wouldn't review like what Mr. Walsh is talking about related to like a park or open space that's not within their purview.
The acquisition of real estate sits with the Board of Supervisors.
Okay. Again, I would ask that you guys consider something around zoning so that it's not residential.
It won't be.
It won't be.
We have,
That's already been addressed.
Including the Fernhill property there.
Burn Hill, the 10 acres,
Where the building,
where the building is, yes, that's like a 10-acre carve-out that they're looking at.
including that now being residential, so they can't sell it off another year in the future.
I believe it's entirely one parcel at this time, and it's all it would be zoned the same thing.
It's very important.
And we discussed that with them also, because that was my concern.
Well, and I also want to address your point, because it's very well taken. I think the first sort of issue that I had was like, what do you mean you're going to drain this reservoir? There's tons of fish and turtles and wildlife living there. And I actually kind of had a problem with it.
Excuse me, can you use your microphone, please?
Sure, thank you.
Sorry about that. I share your sentiments completely. As Sean mentioned, when they approached us a couple of years ago, and then we were followed by that radio silence, I know that we had a very preliminary meeting. They've done this sort of work in other areas, right? They've drained dams and restored the area to these ecological, meadows type things. They showed us some photos. It was my actually understanding that this is an aqua project and that they would be doing all of that work. So I don't know, I guess we'll find that out at the next meeting. I think I'm alone in the sentiment of keep it as a lake.
You're not.
Really, because I was very alone at that time. Okay, well, I was very against it and still continue to be because A, I think there's a lot of creatures that live in that lake. And B, what if we could do something and turn it into, I don't know, some kind of recreational thing for people to use?
Yes.
I just feel like there's more that needs to be discussed, and I've been keeping quiet about that because I felt like maybe people didn't want that.
No, we do.
Okay.
A lot of creatures live around that lake. Yeah.
I know, and the eagles, like you mentioned, it's all really, really important. So,
Sitting in a tree out my window just this morning.
and trust me, Dorothy, the first thing that I thought of were all the people that I talked to that lived in the arbors where a woman invited me in her house one time and we stood out on her porch and it was beautiful, the lake and everything was there. And so, this upcoming meeting, talking about the timeline, we're really trying to not have it be this expedited process. We really want to make sure that we get the answers, and if this, keeping it as a lake is something that people are interested in, like, let's explore that. I don't know, right? I mean, can we push them on that? I don't know. I want to be transparent about the fact that I
don't think, with all due respect to my fellow supervisor's opinion, I don't think we have an option here. The PAD piece is that spillway is not big enough. If you keep it as a dam, you need to spend millions of dollars to fix it.
Well, we don't know that it would be millions of dollars, but I agree that we would need to probably spend some money to bring the dam up to compliance. We would have to.
And also, we don't know, again, I feel like we're working in the dark. We don't know how many millions it would take to restore the dam. We don't know how many million, it would take.
Aqua have not said to us, you have the option of spending the money to keep the dam. It's their
Has
property.
anyone asked them?
Yes, we did ask them.
Okay.
What's the cost benefit analysis of doing all that work that they're asking for? In addition to legal fees, they're gonna probably have to pay too. What's the cost benefit analysis? I think that's a fair thing to ask.
Yeah, I think you should
Because,
ask
I'm
them.
hearing $6 million. Man, I keep thinking to myself, that tearing that whole dam down, getting rid of all the stuff that's there, doing the environmental things that they need to do, I gotta bring us pretty big bucks.
Not as much as restoring it.
Yeah.
Well, I just
I mean,
wanted to
it's a
know-
great question for them. I
That's a
mean,
good question
that
for
is a
them.
really good question.
And let
We
them
should
give you
have-
the answer
Let
to
them give
that.
us the answer.
Yeah.
We don't have the answer to that.
You know, a
cost
lot of the
benefit
questions you guys are asking are good questions, we have them as well, but they're gonna have to wait and to be answered by Optum.
Well, well, my question is, you guys can ask them. I mean, why do we have to wait for us to ask them? If we're entering into a partnership, and it's not what you're asking us to do, enter into a partnership with Aqua. And if we're going to be partners, I think it's fair to go to them and ask them for the information. Where is the cost benefit analysis? Where is the environmental protection study? Where is the engineering? I'm like, why are they not forthcoming? You can ask them that. We don't have to wait for a public meeting.
So, I mean, the cost benefit analysis has clearly been done. The rest of it, I'm not sure they've actually got through the process yet.
We haven't seen it. Have you seen it?
Well, I'm not sure Aqua's going to say this is our business cost benefit analysis. They'll claim it's, business confidential information and may never get it.
They're a corporation, there's a lot of information. I know the lawyers will go crazy because I work for a corporation and I
They'll
couldn't
say
read
this is our property,
a lot
our
of environmental
decision.
Trust
stuff.
me, you're preaching to the choir. I know all about this. All I'm saying is you can ask.
And we
And
can.
if they're being partners, they will share some information that they have, whatever they can. And I think it's fair to say, so also in my notes, it looks like a black and white. Either the township takes it or Aqua keeps it and it all gets drained. There are never two options. There are always multiple options. So what is the option of keeping it as a lake? What is that option? How much does that cost? How much does it cost the township? How much would it cost? We are looking at an investment anyway. So why not look at the investment for multiple uses? Let's look at an investment for keeping a lake. Let's look at an investment for making it a park, conservancy. It's not black and white, as far as I can see. And that's the way it's being presented.
Okay. Duly noted, we made a note of your concern. We'll certainly look at a request to Aqua for what was the cost benefit analysis of the decision they did not want to invest in the dam. Hopefully they'll have it when we have a public presentation for us in a month, 3-4 weeks time. Maybe we'll hear an answer that's not going to tell you, we'll see. Other questions or specific concerns?
I just have one question. Do we know who their design consultant is for the decommissioning?
Schnabel?
Schnabel, that's the
Yeah.
firm I used to work for.
They're experts in
That had the
dams.
contract 10 years ago to do it.
Other questions?
I got a
Yes,
quick
sir.
question. It's,
Would you mind stating your name for the record? We
I
have
don't want to do that. I just want to cite the fact that in addition to you guys, I think the Aqua will have to obtain permits from, regulations in Pennsylvania require permits from Department of Environmental Protection, Fish and Boat Commission, and possibly under.
Yes, correct.
That's what they're
Has
doing.
That's
that
what
been
they're doing.
done? Have they made the applications and have they been approved?
I don't think they have. Don't work for Aqua. They talked about a 18-month design permitting process, which means they got to do design work and then submit applications. So my supposition is they have not.
I thought Pennsylvania took it very seriously on dams and
They do.
draining.
Yeah.
And if you want to do it, you have to follow the regulations. We should be able to determine that. You should too.
Mr. Chairman, the letter does kind of imply that they may have at least a drawdown permit
Yeah.
from those two agencies.
Yeah.
Because it says Aqua will draw down the water in the reservoir under permit. So they might have that permit to draw it down.
Draw down, but not the demolition project.
Yes.
I would highly recommend that you take on the opportunity to have them not draw this water down until we go through something, some kind of, there's a lot of animals there, man. We can't do that. It's a real issue.
Well, part of the permitting process, we'll have to take all that into account to protect not only the environment, but the creatures that live there. That's all part of the process, that's why it takes so long, because they have to follow the permitting, they're giving a permit under certain criteria that they have to follow.
Okay, can we have input into that criteria, that they're going for a permit in the state agencies, I'm sorry.
If they've already obtained permitting from those agencies, then they've obtained permitting from them, and the township has no jurisdiction over what those agencies do.
Was there public comment? Was there a public notice?
We don't
According
know.
to their letter, they already have
Those are
a
all
permit.
state agencies. We have no authority, no say,
that's
no
not
That was my
oversight.
question. My question was, did they have a public comment?
Again, those are state agencies, so whether or not they're required to do that, we can't answer that question. Those
You
are a
have to
higher
look on the
sovereign.
permitting process to see if that's a requirement.
And again, I think that that's something that you guys can do. I think that that's something that we need to know. You're a representative, we're asking you to, I think, get a little bit more involved so that you can come back to us and say, they have their permits,
So,
this is what they did.
coming back to you will be at this next meeting. We'll ask some of these questions and you'll hear it from them, not by us, and then ask us, well, why didn't you ask them that and ask them that? They're going to be here and they want to hear these questions. And they'll answer you what they can, and the rest, if they don't want to answer it, they'll say it's business confidential or whatever else. Margie, you had a question?
Yeah, just one comment on the date of that meeting. I think this young lady makes a good point about having time to get right to knows responded to, because a lot of questions we might have to ask. So even if you file it tomorrow, they're going to take, it's 5 days, and then you take a 30-day extension. So even if we could go 2 months out, makes more sense.
Well, I just caution on that, because if you want as many questions answered as you can, we need to hold the meeting sooner. So this goes back to it feeling like a shorter timeline, because if they have a permit to draw down the lake, they will start that process. And if your meeting isn't until they finish doing it, you may have missed the opportunity to have some conversation or input or understanding around it.
Okay.
And the letter clearly states they have the permits already from the Fish and Boat Commission and the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection to begin to draw down. So, and that's going to happen in the summertime.
Why aren't they waiting for 3 or 4 years till they have all this work done to approach us?
That's a good question. They need to answer that. That's a business decision on their end.
You know,
I mean, let me paint a picture. Let's say they had no interest in donating this to the township. We'd be sitting here with them doing whatever they wanted with the state agencies.
Yeah.
We would not even have been informed. There's no obligation on them, as far as I'm aware, Chris, under any of our requirements, to even notify us if they didn't want to. The only reason we're having this conversation is because they've offered to donate the land.
And they're doing that out of the goodness of their hearts.
Whatever that means.
Well, if they could sell it for $60 million for residential development, why you're telling me they wouldn't do that? So that's what I worry about.
We're happy that they feel good about donating it, you know.
And they were asked about that too, if they would sell for development. They said no.
They did say they were not interested in selling it for development.
And then there is a 7.79 acre parcel. And I would request that if this...
What is it, which parcel are you talking about, Margie? Is it adjacent to the lake parcel, or?
Yeah, it's, the description is SS of Brickton Circle, cul-de-sac. So at the end of
It's
Downing...
owned by Aqua?
Downing Avenue, it's owned by Aqua. And that looked, from the Chesco views, it looks like that parcel needs to be a part of any discussion.
Doesn't the sewer company have a
Yeah, it's
pumping
called-
station?
We have a pump station.
That's right behind me.
I don't know how
You're looking at the right one there, Margie, because Downing Avenue is the pump station. Is it Aqua?
Yeah, it's this little, there.
Okay, well, we can look at it.
All right, 7.79 acres. 52 3Q, Chris, 498.
What is it?
52 3Q, 498.
Thank you.
Okay. Other pressing questions tonight? Okay, then, Chris, we're looking at trying to make sure people can be made aware of whenever we schedule this meeting. I know we've got to work with ARPA to do it, so do you have any kind of at least indicative weeks that we can tell people tonight when it's likely to be?
I don't have any dates or any information I can provide on that. I did provide Aqua with a list of roads and adjacent properties to send direct notification to. So there's about 9 streets on that list that I provided to them.
Okay.
Can I just ask for clarification? I do think that it's important to us as a committee, made up of residents and supervisors, so that we can talk through these things and maybe get some information and let you know what's important. Is that something that the supervisors can consider?
Like some sort of advisory committee, something like that? I mean, you're welcome to put together a committee, and, you know, we would be happy to meet with you outside of these sorts of meetings to talk about things if you have questions.
I think it's a good idea because assuming this is along the journey of the duration we described, you know, there's a whole bunch of steps along the way, whether it's deciding what we're going to do if we get the property, what we're going to do with it, what the options are with cost, how we can get grants for it, when the grant applications need to be in. So some residents working up getting some views and perspective to inform staff and the board would be good.
My only question is, with the Sunstone Act, would we be able to do that and not be in a public forum and discuss this type of stuff with the supervisors?
Well, you can't have more
It
than,
wouldn't be
you can't
all
have
of
3
it.
supervisors.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, the information and what you.
I mean, it could be a subcommittee of the SAC or something like that, right?
Right, yeah, and I had suggested that in an email
Yeah.
to you.
I said, I thought it was a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay, so TBD on when this meeting is, second half of June. Yes, later.
Sherry Stewart, Wrights Lane Properties, we own the 22 acres immediately adjacent to the reservoir. Chris, I don't know your last name, but you made a point regarding direct notification of the properties adjacent to the overall reservoir. The way we found out about any of this was social media.
That
Which
was-
is pretty disappointing.
Well,
So,
hold on one second. We just got notification about this on Friday. That was for a direct public meeting for, like, to invite people to a public meeting with Aqua. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Supervisors. That was a notification for a public meeting.
right. My point is, we would like to understand what the communication process is going to be from the township, and I know that you can't speak for Aqua, with the property owners that have immediate impact.
It was my understanding that Aqua was going to handle direct communication with people when that's scheduled. Well, no, when that future public meeting is scheduled, then I provided them with, you know, roads of adjacent properties.
Is Wrights Lane on that?
I have to go back and check, but I'll make sure it is.
Okay.
I just wanted to add that we already have 2 board members as liaison for the SAC. So, you know, if we wanted to tap it on to the SAC as a subcommittee,
Yeah,
we already have the participation on there with 2 board members.
Yeah, I just want to remind people, we are being as transparent as possible. We've got this letter that says formally we're telling you that this is what ARPA wants to do on, what was the date, May 15th?
I think
We're not trying to not contact people, it's just that we're doing it as quickly as we can in the biggest forum we can.
I get that. I think the overall theme tonight is this impacts a lot of people. A lot of people care about it. Communication and transparency
Yes,
is really important.
totally get it.
We're trying to reinforce that. I personally just want to make sure you have our contact information and you know that Wrights Lane Properties cares, and then we get involved in this process.
As long as so we would pull the information from the county records for like mailing address, so as long as that's up to date, we would utilize that address.
Thank you for being here.
You get the tax bill, so.
Okay.
Which hasn't gone up in 16 years.
I know for a fact that I gave them every street in the arbors. So I do know that for a fact. And we would pull everything from the county tax records, just like we do for notification for like a zoning hearing board application or things of that nature. And while we were talking, I was pulling up, I could be wrong on this, and I'm not a lawyer, but I was pulling up the code related to drawdown permits, and I don't see anything related to a public comment period on that.
again, if there's more questions, let's get them out before we move on.
I do have a question, and this is probably directed to some. If the homeowners improve diminishment of property value, is that constitute a fee? And would we be entitled to compensation?
That's not something that I can give you advice on, and you can certainly seek your own counsel on that.
Any other questions about the Fernhill Reservoir Township Line? Well, thank you all for being here on this. I know it's a tremendously important topic for you, for the township, and we promise to work together as best we can to hopefully effect a smooth transition to whatever it might be.
We need to nail down a date now for when that meeting's going to come up, or how are we going to communicate with everybody when we actually know when that meeting's going to be?
Aqua's going to communicate with them.
Aqua's going to send the letter?
Yeah.
That's my understanding.
Radius.
And are we thinking that we want it to be in June still, or do we want to push it out?
I think June.
I think June.
So what happens if we get to June and we don't have a response to our right to know?
Maybe you can ask them the questions there. What did the
Well,
permit consist of? What is required to
I don't
be in
know
the
that
permit?
June is going to be your last opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's sort of the big, it is, right. I mean, Sean said this was a kickoff. This really is a very preliminary kickoff. I think that the bigger meeting will be the bigger kickoff. And then after that, especially if we put it together in committee, you'll have more of a direct line of communication with us and then with them. And I'm sure they'd be happy to have representatives meet with us through that committee too. So
This doesn't have to be the last meeting with Aqua. Once you do your right to know, you may want to have another meeting with Aqua.
I might
Because
want it, but they might not.
I don't know. I would assume that they're not going to cooperate at all because they've been very cooperative with us. So I would not assume that at all.
And the unfortunate thing is a lot of the information that you're going to be requesting through right to know request would need to go to DEP, Fish and Boat Commission, other agencies, because I'll be quite honest with you, the only thing that I have is the letter that was published in the meeting packet, and we have no control over how long they take to respond.
But Aqua does have information. They have the information that they provided in requesting their comment.
I mean, one thing that would be helpful is if you've got specific questions, if you share them with us, we will say to ARCA when we arrange this meeting, these are some of the issues that came up, and we think it would be good if you could address them during your presentation.
And they made it clear to us that they're going to have folks there who are going to be environmental staff and also engineering as well. So they'll have the expertise there at this meeting that can answer the questions that we just can't at this point.
Oh, and I don't expect you to. I don't expect you to have the environmental impact. I don't expect you to get. What I am asking for is that you make the request. You don't have the information, but you certainly do have the power to make requests.
Sure. Yep.
Okay. Very good. Well, thank you everyone for that. If you don't want to stay for the rest of our agenda, please leave now. Carry your conversations out. We'll take a kind of quick 3, 4, 5 minute break here.
Sorry, advisory committee.
Because we'll need to deal with that. They're not even
We'll talk again.
So I get so when you see the oh yes, and so not too far from the beach. Right. Okay. Yeah, that was that was does that, right? Yeah, when I power wash his house.
But I'm right across the street, he's 160 something, he's on 30. Yeah, I know. Okay, so everybody else is good. We don't even have access to it. You speak really well. Right? Nobody coming down Green Avenue, down. I don't think they even do one man. I think all that is the whole that house in the cul-de-sac lane.
Yeah, you just sit there and just soak it all in.
See some wood coming in.
Yeah.
Feasibility assessment.
I don't hear, it's just for my house.
Well, I knew that, but I'm saying I was surprised they got that much draw that.
This was
They had, you know, the residents, when it was proper sale, that's
huge liability. They know it's efficient.
Yeah.
Well, they never seem to have a sense of real immediate urgency. They never seem to name that. They actually came to us, I guess, a couple of years ago about this. Now they're coming back and just, it seems like it's working for their poor decision making. I know about the buildings and then that's yeah, the catastrophic incident. I'm more like the Radisson was a business decision, bring all the distribution water, don't need the reservoir. We've told about we have to do certain things to upgrade it, and we're not willing to spend.
If we could get the meeting back in order, please. Very good. So we are now on to agenda item number 5. Discussion regarding the upcoming bid for trash and recycling collection and a survey of the community regarding service. And let's see if that is with Chris. Please introduce it, thanks.
Mr. Chairman, before the board this evening is discussion regarding the upcoming bid for trash and recycling collection, as well as discussion about a survey of the community pertaining to the service. This is something that we had discussed previously, so our contract is coming up at the end of this year. So I've outlined the current service level, which is trash collection twice a week, recycling collection once a week, bulk item collection weekly, and then yard, leaf, Christmas tree collection, and then collection from the SEPTA bus stations. So I've outlined a few options for the board's consideration. So really tonight is just to sort of get the first part of tonight is just to get a flavor of the options that would be included in the contract. And I base these off of conversations that we've had over the course of the last year or two. So one option is obviously the current service level, again, pricing on that. Another option would be to maintain everything at its current level except see pricing for once a week trash collection. Another option is to adjust to monthly bulk item collection while maintaining everything else the same. And then a final option is once a week trash collection and monthly bulk item collection. There was also a question that was raised to me regarding establishing a roadside litter collection program, which is something that East Bradford Township does, and I provided the information from their contract and how it operates. So it's kind kind of the first part of the discussion. And then the second part relates to the survey. I outlined a few different questions that could be considered. Obviously, we would want to ask for certain demographic information because considering the number of individuals in a household, it might change the amount of time you put out trash collection and might have a greater impact. So those are the items that are before the board this evening for discussion.
Okay, so let's start with the first question, which is, do we have the right options for bidding? Does the board want to weigh in on whether these permutations seem like the ones you were thinking of, or if there's another one that you have in mind? And then, Chris, I have a quick question for you. Is East Bradford Township the only surrounding municipality that has this roadside litter collection contract?
They're the only one that I'm aware of.
And is that for township roads only, or do they do it on PennDOT roads as well?
It's not really specified in their contract.
They pick up along Route 22 bypass.
So that's PennDOT road,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Okay, but no other township, as far as you're aware, has this litter pickup?
This is the only one that I'm aware of.
And this is the one we got a complaint about?
Correct.
All right, so back to my question to the board, are these options what you were thinking of?
I think these cover bases.
How often do they do the trash from the separate bus station? None of the options say that frequency is.
I believe it's supposed to be every week,
Okay.
but I know sometimes they get
That
missed.
would be in all options,
Mhm.
the same ones per week
Correct, it would be the same collection schedule.
for that particular one.
Can we just, obviously it'll be in the bid, but can we just confirm that to the board at some point?
For all the options.
Just confirm the trash collection is weekly from the bus stations.
Yeah.
Everything else has a definition, a time associated,
If that may
frequency
change too,
associated with
in
it.
each of the options, you may want to do it every 2 weeks.
I'm not sure to do that.
I don't think. I
They're already
don't think
overflowing.
Yeah, they're already.
I don't think we should change it to every 2 weeks.
Good question. Who's currently picking up our roadside litter? If anyone?
No, there's that,
Volunteers.
there are like community groups that do it, but it's done on their volunteer basis.
Yeah, you said there's adopt the highway signs.
Yes.
So it's those groups who adopt those certain areas. I mean,
Do you need permission from PennDOT to be one of those volunteer organizations to pick up on PennDOT roads?
I don't really know how that program works.
I've done it before. I mean, you can contact PennDOT and they'll actually supply you with a lot of the trash bags and gloves. They're really open to it. They have a program for it. But no, I don't think you
You don't
need
need a
permission.
permit or anything.
No.
Well, you
It's
will
public.
sign up for it, you just show up on a particular day and pick up your trash.
Yeah.
Even in Bags, you contact PennDOT, they will come and pick it up.
Oh, they'll pick it up, but if it's
Hanging on
PennDOT
the
road.
roadway, you have an issue on 202.
What's that?
So if PennDOT didn't approve it, you couldn't do it on 202 because pedestrians can't go on.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like Route 1, I know there's often Route 1, Chester
I'm sure
County,
they
you'll see a
still do
lot
it.
of
We have
people
that.
doing it there. Yeah. Okay. So just to nail this down, we're good with the options, we'll get, Chris will confirm the frequency on the trash collection for the bus station.
So that's my, do we want to do all 4 options? I mean, I put these all based on on conversations. It may complicate things, but
You mean 4 options in the survey?
No, in the bid
in
document.
the contract that's bid out, do we want to put all 4 options? Or, me personally, I think you would want to bid out options A and B, which would only change the trash collection schedule from twice a week to once a week, maintain
No,
everything
I
else.
think we should get a number on roadside collection.
Oh, no, okay, I missed that one. So do we want to do the roadside collection program as well?
But I agree with you, I think for the football,
What about bulk? I mean, I don't know, I mean, Chris, I don't know if you have the data, but how many other townships collecting trash twice a week and have a weekly bulk pickup? I think we're pretty.
That's a lot, yeah. But I live in West Goshen.
Well, you have a lot of trash, Kim? I don't know.
see, it's a good service, so people
I don't-
should.
I appreciate it.
I don't know the answer to that question, but I can tell you, where I live, we have once a week trash collection, and they just changed this year from monthly bulk collection to weekly bulk collection. And I don't put something out every week for bulk collection, but I like knowing that that option exists.
If we're gonna only have 2 options allowed, I like C and D to put out there to the contractor.
I like D myself.
Yeah, I like D personally, but if you're gonna do C and D, I think are the best.
Or at the very least, maybe a bi-monthly
got diverse opinions on the board here. So I don't, so what's the maximum number, Chris, you want? No more than 3, preferably 2 options to put out in a bid contract?
Yes.
I like C and D.
What's the difference between C and how it is now?
Monthly bulk collection. I would not only do options for monthly bulk collection.
I don't think we can.
If I were to just change those, if I would not do, I would do A, maybe A, C, and D, if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, I agree.
But A, C, and D is no change to the weekly trash pickup though, other than D where you're going really cutting everything back, right? Going monthly bulk once a week.
Or you could do A and D.
A and D.
Those would be your 2 kind of polar
That's
extremes.
like, that's to get the most cost savings with D versus the current service level.
Correct.
Right. That kind of makes sense to me.
You know, one end of the spectrum.
Because I'm not sure the bulk, monthly bulk versus weekly is going to be that big a difference.
Right. Right now, I believe the bulk cost is rolled into the cost for trash collection. It's not separated
It
out.
comes the same day, it's just a different vehicle that picks up. So there's the current proposal. A and D, is that any objections to those 2 being the bid proposal?
I think that's fine.
Yeah.
Plus the roadside litter as the
Yeah,
add-on potentially. 'Cause that's easy for them to price, it's a specific service.
I would just model it exactly like what East Bradford does.
Can you
Okay,
get a sense of how much they're paying for that?
I don't know what it was. Mandy had provided that to me, but I don't know off the top of my head what that cost was. I can tell you when they don't meet the requirement, I get a reduction in my bill, but we can't really do that because we handle the billing in-house. We can't really do the credit like they do. I get billed directly from the service provider.
okay.
With the roadside pickups, where will we actually be asking them to pick up? Just along 322 or?
I would be along every road in the township.
They would have a schedule.
Gotcha.
So since this is just a discussion and direction for staff, is there anyone attending who has a strong opinion on which options to include for the bid proposal? Doug?
Can you please read the options again?
Yes, option A is the as-is. As-is is obviously the twice-a-week trash, once-a-week recycling, once-a-week bulk, and then the other things, the leaf and all the rest of it. And option D is once-a-week trash, still once-a-week recycling, and monthly bulk, and then everything else is the same.
Do people really use bulk pickup every week?
Some do, that was my concern.
Or is would monthly be suffice?
That's what I thought, because I think a lot of townships don't even offer or pick up bulk at all.
This is if I want to get rid of it, I know I can get it out of the way this week versus I got to remember 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks from now to put it out.
Put it on the calendar. Be
I'm
organized.
just
I wonder how much
saying how
savings
people
would
do
actually
this.
be to get.
Yeah, that's the question, how much
Yeah.
we're talking about,
Yeah.
potentially
Should be
saving
to a
going
month, like once a month.
Is it a big
once a week,
savings?
bulk
I
to
don't know.
We don't
monthly
know.
bulk.
I mean, it's a separate truck that comes out.
Not
So
always.
It is a cost.
Not always.
Well, depending on what
Yeah.
it is, yeah,
I
right.
put a bureau out once in the regular, he can pick it up with
Yeah.
them toms, he put it in the back.
Like, it's amazing what I see put out. I saw a stainless steel refrigerator put to the curb, a massive thing. And they did. Came and crushed it.
With the Freeman?
I, yeah. That is a basketball net been at the curb for 2 weeks because they don't know it's trash because he hasn't put it, this is trash on the sign.
I'm pondering whether the survey should go out after you get the bids back, or you.
That's a good question. So hold that question. Let's just finish up the bids we want. So to Doug's point, do we want to change A and D or do we want to still go with A and D? Monthly bulk. I was hearing that the board thinks monthly bulk is manageable for residents in terms of they can figure it out if you haven't
Yeah,
put it.
especially if they're talking about saving us from having to pay more trash fees, for sure. Once a month should be adequate.
I think so.
Okay, so A and D. On the roadside, okay, so let's move on to the survey questions. And Chris, you've got a bit of an update on this, and I think I mentioned the same point Margie had, like how do people weigh in if they don't know the cost difference? Your view is that we could do a survey initially,
You can do them
get the kind of qualitative, I use twice a week works for me because of this, and then we can always come out with a follow-up with here's the difference in price. Do you still feel the same way?
Correct. Because we would only have so many days in which to award the contract, and if you're going with a new, if ultimately the apparent low bidder is a new vendor, we would have to do a situation where we'd have to change out cans and things of that nature.
Well, why can't we send the costs out with the survey so that people would know before they make that option, this is what it's gonna cost me?
I don't know if we'd be able to tell them that. Just-
Can't tell that now.
So we should hold off sending the survey out until we have our.
Well, I was,
We have to put this out to bid, so we have to know exactly what we're putting out
So
to bid.
you have to put out the bid, I believe it has to be out there for 30 days. So if we put it out to bid beginning of June, you would get things back in July. I believe you have roughly 60 days in which to award it. So that puts you into September timeframe before you would be able to award it. And then we'd be scrambling to, if we have a new vendor, an apparent low bidder, then we'd be scrambling to switch things out.
And when
at the
does
end of
it
the year.
expire?
End of this year.
So we have from,
But we could-
say, November, or September to December to swap things out. If you put the survey
In theory,
out
you
in
could do that.
conjunction with the costs.
well, the survey can go out once you receive the bids during that 60-day
Yeah, that's what I'm
period.
saying, yeah.
So we can get here's what we've got in terms of price difference between either one bid, the lowest bidder between these two options,
Right.
or the other
Yeah,
bidder.
that's
What's
what
the public, do you want to save X for this service level? So I think we could wait until then, so maybe just do it once.
Yeah, we can do that.
Instead of having it twice.
All right, so we'll bid out, we can bid out those options.
So, just so everyone thinks about it, I mean, a survey's only as good as the response rate you get. I doubt we'll get more than 10 to 20% respondents from residents for a survey. About 20% high side, really. Probably going to be in the 10% range. So we're still going to be trying to make a decision without full engagement of the whole township. So I just want people to understand that the survey is intended to get a feel, but it isn't, 10% of the people voted for this, so that's why we did it.
The one thing to keep in mind, if ultimately the decision is to go with the option that reduces the service, you wouldn't be able to cut the fee in half because you're still collecting the same tonnage and you're still subject to the tipping fees. So that's just one thing to keep in mind.
Yeah, we'd have to explain that as part of taking the
The fee would be
survey.
reduced at all.
I don't know what the fee would be because we haven't got the bid results back, but there could be a perception that, oh, you're cutting this in half, so my bill should be cut in half. You're still collecting the same tonnage, paying the tipping fees, so it wouldn't result in that dramatic of any kind of cost reduction. Plus, with the cost for fuel and things of that nature, it may not be much of a cost reduction.
Yeah, but you're just setting expectations as to don't get thinking that going to once a week is going to cost the.
Yeah, because we collect, in 2025, we collected 7,828 tons of trash that was taken to the dump taken to the landfill throughout the year. So there's still probably going to be that volume that's collected.
Even if they come only once a week.
People are still going to put it out.
Hold it and put it out once a week.
I mean, I think the data says that the Thursday pickup is half the amount tonnage-wise as Monday.
Roughly, yeah.
So it's basically going to have overflowing containers, but the same tonnage.
Potentially, yeah.
Where you may have to have two containers. The problem is if we go from twice a week to once a week, people are going to expect to see a reduction in the trash bill. And that's not what we're talking about.
It's going to depend on how the numbers come back.
Yeah, we have to look at the numbers. Probably won't. Doug?
So if you go to once a week, is there going to be the expectation to supply more cans?
That could be an option. That's a policy decision for the board.
So
Well, we supply extra recycling bins now, don't we? People say.
No,
No, we do.
Yeah, upon request.
On request.
I just don't.
so if there's just once a week, and they're still going to have just as much to put out, that one day that there's a trash pickup, they're going to have more cans out.
Not necessarily. So my house, I put it out on a Monday, might be a third full. On Thursday, I still put something out. If I've got a trash, it might be one bag in that huge toter. So once a week for me would work, but I'm not typical potentially of the township. So everyone's going to be in a different situation.
Right. It's going to really depend, like the volume really depends on household size.
Right. And age too.
Okay, so I don't think we're experts in designing survey questions. You've got some pointers here. I think the key decision we made was we want to wait until you've got the bids back to do the survey. Try to get it done within that 60 days. In terms of we have the data to use, and do the calculation as to whether there's any meaningful reduction in the trash bill or not. Maybe the board would need to look at that and say, do we really want to do a survey if the saving is $5 a quarter, that kind of thing. Right, so we don't put a survey out if that's the case.
Get the bids out first.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you going to do the survey on electronic newsletter?
Yeah.
Yep. I would work with Dandelions on the survey.
Any other comments, questions from the board or anyone on this agenda item? Okay, we'll move on to agenda item 6, continued discussion regarding the splash pad project in West Goshen Community Park. This was the board, so let me introduce that. So before us this evening is a continued discussion regarding the splash pad installation project at the community park. The board reviewed information prepared by Carroll Engineering at their meeting on April the 7th. At our meeting on April the 7th, as part of the final design process, the board requested the Park and Rec Board provide input on the equipment for the splash pad. At the meeting on April 15th, the Park and Rec Board declined to make a recommendation because they needed to meet with an expert. We held a special meeting with Will Hemler from General Recreation on May the 13th to review the project and the equipment. And I believe the Park and Rec Board had a final discussion of it at their meeting last night. So I don't know if, Chris, you were in attendance at that.
I was not, but Mr. Lear is here this evening and he can talk about that.
All right, so before you go forward there, Ken, so at this junction, the next step is to finalize the design plan with the proposed equipment. And we've got a proposed equipment list that had originally been provided from General Rec. And we'll see if there's been any changes to that from the Park and Rec Board's discussion.
All right, so first of all, the one thing that Chair Allison Bonjo wanted to emphasize at yesterday's meeting was her appreciation of Will Hemler coming out and giving the information session last week on the special meeting. So the Park and Recreation Board did unanimously recommend for the central spray feature and let me try to read, the mini flash flood. Now they did also say that they were interested in the Whirl Flex and wanted to know if both could be incorporated into the central feature somehow. I told them I did not think that was possible, but I would check with Will Hemler. I emailed him this morning, have not heard back.
It's not possible because of the extra, is it a flow rate issue, would it exceed the 100 GPM?
No, it actually, both of those could still fit within the whole flow rate envelope.
Okay.
But it would have to be redesigned. Right now, he has one central feature in the design, and if you wanted two, it would have to be redesigned somehow. I'm not sure how easily that can be done.
Okay. So it might be an either or, right? Pick one or the other for the
Yes.
central feature.
And if that is the case, the number one choice would be the mini flash flood.
Okay.
They did also make one other recommendation. Based on the presentation by Will Hemler, they unanimously recommended the board consider the addition of solenoids to control the water patterns, the water flow, etc. They recognize the added expense of the solenoids, that there may be a little bit more maintenance, but they felt in the long run it would be a worthwhile investment for the splash pad.
What are the solenoids?
The solenoids are programmable switches that can control the water flow. You can control the water flow in numerous ways. One is you could just control how much or how little flow there is electronically without having to go and adjust the valves. The other thing you could do is if you wanted to spray, let's say you press the activator and you wanted water to, instead of all turning on at once, you wanted it to jump around in a circle. You could use the solenoids to program so that this one spouts, then that one spouts, and then that one, and all around in a circle. So the solenoids give you more control over the flow of the water.
And it gives you more versatility.
And that's
Correct.
and that's in addition to the plan that we already have? Like, are you saying that the Park and Rec Board is requesting that we have?
Yeah, that was something that I believe, Chris, I don't know if you know or not, I don't think that that is in the plan right now. It would.
It's not.
Okay.
Now we have the one.
So just to remind the board,
Save.
this was a discussion when Chris presented the decisions that needed to be made. This was a discussion about whether we should include the solenoids, et cetera.
Well, right now we have one or two.
You're talking about the button?
Yeah.
No, the buttons.
The buttons
Or
there.
not, yeah, they're different.
There's two zones, the smaller zone and then the central zone, each with separate button control.
Right.
The solenoids give these extra design features that Ken was just describing. When we discussed it as a board and gave Chris decisions around which direction to go, the additional cost and complication and maintenance of the solenoids, and we were talking quite a few, right? There's how many features?
7 or 8.
7 was it, or 10? I think it was 10 features, each individually controlled. They're all failure points and they're all cost points, not only for the upfront cost, but for the maintenance cost. And we had decided we did not want that feature previously. So even though the part of the board, the group is recommending it, I just want to remind the board, we had previously made a decision that was not the direction we were going.
And you also are able to control each section, each solenoid. So you're saving water rather than it all going on and all going off. You know, the 10 or 15 minutes.
Well, no,
per
because can't you still redirect the water through the pipes or something and shut off? So that when you press it, only some features come on and some don't?
I don't think there's going to be a press, because they said what the press is, it's like a button like we have on the traffic lights, and they break very easily.
No, I mean, I know, but he was talking about from like an app, you can control whether water goes through, comes out of the feature or not. Is that the solenoid or is that a different?
You would need the solenoids for that. You can control the water pressure through a manual valve, but if you wanted to program it in that way, you wouldn't be able to do that from the truck.
So it would also not.
Yeah, all of those.
If I'm remembering the conversation at the meeting on May 13th, I believe Mr. Hempler said that if we wanted to, we could add those in the future.
Yeah.
So that could be an option as this evolves. But that could be an option down the road as we kind of get established with it. If the board wanted to add those in the future, that could be done.
Well, my only concern is the installation of the solenoid valves and what's going to be required if you do it later and the cost associated with that.
Well,
They have to be installed.
it's obviously going to be an additional cost versus if we do it as part of the initial installation, but it's not going to be outrageously more than if we did it for the third separately. It's not a huge piece of the overall design. I mean, Chris, you got to weigh in here. So if we put it in day one, I'll make it a $15,000 additional. If we put it in down the road, it's a $20,000 additional item. I'm just ballparking it. Is that kind of a reasonable uplift? I think
It's
so.
probably a reasonable estimate, and then if you wanted to have that option upgrade in the future, we would just have to size the valve chamber appropriately now, because that would be the big ticket item. It involves excavation. You need the real estate for these additional solenoids, so I would make the advisement that if there was the notion that we want to have this solenoids at some point in the future, we would want to accommodate them.
Just like we did with the bathroom project to allow the stubbing for the electrical connection. Do it now once, instead of going back and redoing it. Yeah. So I think that's a good solution. I mean, we know this is an evolving project. We don't know what Will Hamlin told us that the features themselves can be swapped out in the future when we all get bored of them and change up the design. We could certainly, if we feel the water use is a problem, and we want to kind of have this on-off feature with the solenoids programmed through the PLC, we could add that as long as we've designed up front to be able to accommodate it at a future date. Is that a reasonable position for the board?
These solenoids would be coming right off the manifold, right, Chris?
How did you ask?
So the manifold would have to be able to be accommodating the solenoid.
Yeah, that's what Chris's point is.
That's right.
Design it
That's
to
my
do
point
it.
initially.
And you're still going to have limited solenoids, so to operate the switches for the two zones that we talked about at the last meeting, you still need a solenoid type valve. So perhaps it's a good experiment for municipal maintenance to be able to maintain the limited valves and see how it goes, and that would inform your decision as to whether or not you wanted to upgrade in the future.
Yeah. So I think the answer was, we're not going to have it from day one, but we're going to accommodate it in the design to allow the space for, have a manifold space for to add them in the future as we learn and grow with this. Correct? Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I think we answered your questions, Ken, all right?
Fair enough.
Chris, have you got what you need?
And we're just gonna proceed with the central feature
See,
with
that was my question.
the mini flash flood,
That was
correct?
my question, I don't know, I mean, that's their recommendation?
Yes, for the mini flash flood.
I would like to see it, I don't know what that looks like, and
Sure.
if it's different from
It's
what
like a
Will.
big bucket that fills up and then it dumps all at once.
Yeah.
And there's like a little baffle that spreads out the flow, so.
So it's not
numerous
poured
children
directly on
will be
the plants, it's
underneath
spreading
it when
out.
it goes off, yeah.
That's ridiculous.
And then we would have 11 other features around the perimeter of that central features as well.
I mean, we asked them for their recommendation, they've done the time to look into it, I'm confident.
And Chris, I'm guessing you would agree with me that it would be a fairly major redesign to try to incorporate another element as well.
I can't speak to that, I have to talk to Will, but it would involve a redesign.
I mean, we are also, in the note here, Chris mentioned that the lead times, and we'll have to mention this as well, that to get this moving forward, really need to be making a decision here by the end of May, because of the lead times on these pieces of equipment to marry up with the project installation schedule that we've been talking about.
So this is, real quick, this is kind of what it would look like. Yep.
That seems maybe a little bit more fun than the thing that was proposed first.
And does it dump, you said? I mean, does it
Let's
turn
do
over?
that.
Oh, yeah, my kids will love that.
Oh,
Yeah.
have to wait for it.
Yeah, this is a 20-second video. I don't know if it's gonna turn over, but
So the water still comes out of it before it even dumps over?
No, yeah, it doesn't,
It doesn't dump.
it doesn't dump,
It
it's
doesn't?
sort of just,
Oh, it's on the
Cascades.
tipping bucket,
Okay.
it just kind of comes down.
Which is better because that's another breakable maintenance
Yeah.
problem.
The other thing, did you have to like turn it, or would it turn on its own?
yeah, they had looked at that, they considered that may, kids, if they were going too fast, may fling themselves a little too
So
hard.
it's the thing that you turn
Yeah.
yourself? Yeah, okay, I agree with this one. That's good.
Okay. Thanks, Ken, we appreciate the feedback, and thanks to the Park and Rec Board for taking the time to make that final selection.
there is one update related to this that I'd like to give to the board related to the splash pad. We had talked about water usage at the meeting on May 13th. Ken had brought an example of a tiered water structure from a neighboring community, and I did have a conversation with Aqua, and they can provide that. It sounds like it's part of their tariff that they have. So if they provide it to one customer, they can provide it to us, and based on Ken's calculation, that should reduce the water consumption or the water bill by probably about a third, I think is what he calculated, based on the tiers that were with Westchester. It was Westchester Borough that provided it to us. So I sent that to the president of Aqua, because he asked me to provide him with the example. He wasn't familiar with it, so I sent that to him yesterday.
I wasn't familiar with his tiered rates. Sorry,
I
if
can't,
you're watching.
well, I can't answer that.
Ken and Chris, thank you both so incredibly much. You have been so on top of this. That is awesome to think of doing that, and I'm just really grateful that we have you working on this. Thank you. It's really, really great.
The second update is, well, third, there's actually three. I also asked him about any potential funding through Aqua, and they do have a grant program that would fund work like this. He encouraged me to get an application as quickly as possible, so I'll be working on that over the next month to get something submitted. As it relates to grants, we are also getting $60,000 from Senator Committa for this project.
Thank you to Senator Kamina and her staff. That is very welcome news. Thank you.
So Michael Hartman contacted me while we were at the PSATS conference. I contacted him when we got back, filled out the form for him, and he emailed me the other day and told me that, we're locked in for $60,000. I'm just waiting for any forms he needs me to sign. So
What kind of money is out there talking about, maybe available?
He didn't give me any kind of amount, so I'll go on and look and see what there is. But that brings our grant total for community park up to $510,000.
Awesome.
One question, please.
Yeah, Margie.
This pricing proposal from General Recreation, has that already been accepted, or is this just an estimate?
So this is a proposal. We have not issued a contract or awarded it. We've got a change to it now because we changed all the features on it. So we're going to have to get a revised proposal, including the mini flash flood design. We're not changing any of the solenoid. We're not adding solenoids to it or anything else.
With the revised proposal, could you get them to fill in like line items, because they have like a installation cost
and that's about $120,000, but you just don't have a line item of what each thing costs. I think that should be included.
Chris, this was a CoStar's quote, I believe, right? So I don't know if they're going to give a more detailed breakdown. You can ask them for it, obviously.
I mean, $268, that's $8,000 without a breakdown. It's just a lump sum. It seems kind of crazy to me.
I don't know how you compare it to another bid, though. You'd have to go out and say we want a separate bid from someone else, a different CoStar's vendor with different designs and what have you. I guess we believe that General Rec has been a good partner for us, right, Ken, over the years in terms of assistance and support.
The very same representative, Will Hemler, was the one who designed our skate park 20 years ago. And they have been very responsive through the years, even beyond what you would expect from the normal coverage.
Okay. But what we can ask is see if there was a more detailed breakdown, just to get the information.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else with a question? Doug, you had a question?
Yes, I was wondering if the Sustainable Committee weighed in on this type of project in terms of water usage.
I don't believe it went to the Sustainability Committee.
Would they have an opinion on this endeavor in terms of water usage and conservation of water?
They'll probably have individual opinions. We've got the board who's supportive of the project and has authorized it moving forward. We've had a conversation with the Park and Rec Board. We've talked with Will Hamlin. We've got features to dial it back. We won't run it in a drought. We've got limited hours. We can always curtail the hours. So it's in our control. Any other questions? All right, we'll move on to agenda item number 7, discussion regarding the Paoli Pike sidewalk installation project. Chris, let me just introduce this and then you can tell us what you've been up to, okay? So before the board this evening is discussion of the proposed sidewalk installation on Paoli Pike. By way of background information, at the December 2nd meeting, the board discussed this potential project and approved a proposal from Carroll Engineering to prepare a sketch plan and cost estimate for the work. Certain items noted in the information provided in the December 2nd meeting were as follows. The township's 2019 comprehensive plan outlined a vision for a sidewalk connection along Paoli Pike to provide pedestrian access to Westchester Borough. Unlike the Rosedale Avenue sidewalk project, all proposed work for this one would be in the right-of-way controlled by PennDOT. As the project is in the PennDOT right-of-way, it would require permitting from them, and the township would need to follow PennDOT specifications for a sidewalk installation. There would also need to be retaining walls installed at the intersection of Paoli Pike and Garfield Avenue due to the grades in that location. So, Chris, if you could describe what you've been up to, that would be helpful.
Sure, thank you. So at the board's direction, we explored the feasibility and produced some cost estimates, and also the sketch you see before you. It's a little difficult to read on this screen, but I can walk you through it. So we were asked to look at 2 individual sections, both on either side of Garfield Avenue where it intersects Paoli Pike. The eastern side is where Chris has his. So the eastern side here is fairly easy in the installation, maybe not so easy from a permitting standpoint or available right-of-way. So, but in terms of the actual construction of the sidewalk, it's fairly straightforward. We have an existing sidewalk that terminates here. We would extend the to the intersection of Garfield and Paoli. Our expectation in dealing with having to get an HOP permit is that we would need to provide stormwater management for the increase in impervious surface. So we've accommodated that for both sections actually with an underground system here. This would be a pit that would be dug and filled with a porous media that would hold stormwater and then outfall to an existing inlet right here. There is insufficient right-of-way to actually accommodate the sidewalk along the entire right-of-way at this point, so we would need to pursue easements, either easements or right-of-way from the owner at this location, and there are several parcels, so we're looking at about approximately 3 to 4 easements potentially along there. We have a painted median here currently that we can look at later in my report. I have some pictures of these things, and especially some of the major issues that we're going to have to deal with in terms of design on the western portion. So we fully anticipate that in order to provide safe passage for pedestrians through this intersection, that PennDOT, through the course of the HOP approval permit process, will request a raised median there. That way we have safe haven for pedestrians at the center location here that can then proceed across. Once we arrive on the other side of the street, and we can look at the pictures later, but there's quite a bit of elevation change from where the roadway is to where grade is at this location. It's about a 3 to 4 foot increase, and there's steep slopes there. On top of that, vehicular traffic, obviously the type and the volume that is there now has carved away an erosion on that bank here. So we also anticipate that PennDOT could potentially ask the township to change the geometry of the intersection at that time to accommodate a better turning radius. To deal with the steep slopes that I just touched on, we're anticipating that a retaining wall would be required along a lot of those steep slopes. So that's gray line that you're seeing here. We have an existing entrance to the cemetery here. This would need to be accommodated with a new curb ramp style driveway entrance. There's an existing utility pole here which is heavily utilized by users, not just PICO, but also communications lines, what have you, that would need to be moved to accommodate this portion of the sidewalk. Just judging on how long these particular relocations take, our recommendation was that if you wanted to proceed with this leg of the sidewalk installation, this would absolutely have to be considered as a phase 1 project to coordinate that relocation, which could take up to a year based on similar style projects. On top of that, we also have very, very close proximity to existing grave sites here. So, you know, we just need to select a wall and be cognizant of the spacing here. There is not much there, but if we were to select a segmental block style wall, a portion of that needs to be tied back into the bank to provide stability for the wall. So through the course of the easement acquisition, that is something that would need to be discussed with the owner of the cemetery there and obviously be coordinated. This portion, again, I'll just reiterate that the stormwater management for this portion would need to be provided for in this section here with this stormwater management system that would be subsurface. So we've provided cost estimates, and I don't know if you want to look at the pictures of some of the elements that I just discussed tonight, but Chris, they're available in my executive summary report if you wanted to look at those. But to give you an idea of what those costs are, so for the eastern section only.
You able to pull up the costs? Sure. So we can see them.
There's the one that's, this is the.
Yeah, that's summary page on
The summary in the executive's summary might be better.
6.
Page 6?
Yeah.
This right here?
Yeah.
So this just gives you an idea. So this was the more simplistic section. We're looking at a construction subtotal of $57,000 approximately, with all the permitting, the fees, the easement acquisition, what have you. You know, we're anticipating a grand total in the ballpark of about $84,000. For the western section, considerably more expensive because of the elements that we talked about: the utility relocation, the possible geometry changes, the raised median, the wall that would need to go in, and the accommodation of existing driveway. So that is reflected in the costs that you're seeing here. There's a mild savings if you pursue both projects at the same time, and that's reflected in the costs for the combined east and west sections. And again, I'll reiterate that if you were to pursue the western section, it would need to be coupled with the eastern section. So I'd be happy to answer any more questions you may have on this.
Yeah, I have a few questions. Chris, that filtration bed for the stormwater, you showed that on the eastern section. The grading along Pale Lake Pike there between the western and eastern section, do you recall how that grading is? It going uphill from west to east? I mean, which direction?
That's a fair point, and I don't know if we can hop back to the sketch there, Chris, but grade drops off this way, so everything slopes down this way. So yes, I know it's counterintuitive to have a stormwater system at the top, but this would sort of be an offsetting system. So it would gather drainage that is tributary to it from grassed areas and be sized in accordance with the cumulative amount of impervious surface that's being installed.
So it's not actually collecting from the western section, it's just equivalent to the new impervious area.
It would offset the increase.
Offset that.
Correct.
So is there any reason why you could not relocate that filtration bed to the western side?
Again, we have real estate issues here where it really couldn't be accommodated unless we put it underneath the sidewalk itself.
Or even possibly into the cartway? No, let me back up. There's the cartway, if I recall now, it's been relined by PennDOT. And they have only a single lane going through there because of all the accidents that have occurred at that section over the years. And now they have a pretty wide, I don't know what you would call it, shoulder, which is part of the cartway, but it's not part of the sliding lane. Could it possibly be located in that area?
I think it's a possibility. It's something that would have to be hashed out during the HOP process, and I think the fees would be nearly equivalent to what we have shown here.
Yeah, the reason why I'm getting to that point would be if we could relocate the filtration bed to the western side, then it will allow us to proceed with doing the western side alone without having to do the eastern side, or be contingent upon that.
That's accurate.
Is that correct? The reason, because there are some issues about the owners of these properties. They've been presented with the concept, but they were not able to buy into it because we didn't tell them this is what we're proposing at that point. But now we are able to go to them with the proposal, but we may not get an agreement from all the property owners here to proceed. In other words, we may be able to get the property owner for the western side, the property owners of the cemetery to agree, but maybe not the folks on the eastern side at this time.
Yeah, so I think we could make accommodations. If
That's
we were to
what I'm
proceed
trying to
that way,
Yeah.
we could make some changes to the sketch plan to accommodate that.
Let me ask you another question too, options. For the cemetery, there's a concern about how far we will be encroaching into the property itself and maybe even into the graves that are there now, particularly with the retaining wall and having to tie that into the earth behind it. Is it possible to move that sidewalk further south to be able to minimize the amount of encroachment into the cemetery?
I think the only way to really minimize the encroachment here, because we're already right up against an existing curb, I think we only have about a foot of grass area, and that's really to accommodate the grade differences. So to push the sidewalk all the way out to the existing curb could be done. We'd have to get creative with the grading, but I think we'd really have to look at changing the style wall. We put in the most cost-effective wall into the estimate at this current time. There is the option to use more of a more robust gravity wall that does not require the tie-in into the side slopes. This is something more like a ready rock system where it's almost a large concrete boulder that's put there.
It's got a tier back. I guess what I'm really getting at is, given your design right now, how much will it be encroaching into the cemetery? And are we talking about having to relocate graves possibly?
No, but it's tight.
Okay. No, but I just okay.
Well, I don't think there's any knowing the location of some of the subsurface features of the cemetery, if I may. So,
yeah. Well, these are questions that you have to ask.
The subsurface
I'll break
feature.
that down.
Spoken like an engineer, thanks, Chris.
Yeah, that's an engineering term. But I guess the pole is also a problem, and that's a year leeway, and we're not even sure if that's possible because all residents are on that pole, a lot of residents are on that pole. So that's another problem. Is it even possible because of the pole, aside from the graveyards and what's subsurface of that? How do we get around the pole for the utilities?
that's something we'll have to work through.
So let me give you my take. When I saw this report, the whole thing, I realized that this is a much more difficult and extensive project than perhaps my simple expectations were going in. I only see here issues that drive up the cost when you get into the detail. I don't think I'm in a position to say, even though it's part of our comprehensive plan, that this would be a good focus for us to spend the kind of money it would take to put the sidewalk in on this section. We've just started our sidewalk fund. I think in the treasurer's report this month, there's $30,000 deposited in there. There's a couple of other developments that are going to contribute to that. I think there's probably some simple areas in the township where it would be more bang for the buck to spend money on the sidewalk in this particular project. So that's just my opinion. What do the other board members think?
I'd rather focus on the school in Ellis Lane and the project, sidewalk project there, which is more critical with the school there.
Is there an issue with that? Well, that would be solved.
Well, money, what about the money?
That's East Goshen's issue. They
Yeah, that's
control that.
Oh,
yeah, it's not
Get
all.
into that.
Are you talking about the pedestrian connection over to the high school?
Yes.
That's East Goshen controls
We're not
that.
gonna-
So I understand where Sean's coming from. I think it's a lot of money. I also think, though, that we've already made significant efforts and progress to start installing sidewalks along that section of Purely Pike. We did it with the Aldi. We did it in other sections.
The Wells Fargo.
We've been trying to connect, and there's a reason that this particular area is, I do think there's a bang for your buck there. A lot of people walk from West Goshen to the borough and vice versa. I see people on that stretch of road every day, even when I'm coming down that, what is that, Garfield? And I was making a right the other day, and I swear, somebody came out of nowhere that was walking down that path, and I had to like slam on my brakes because I didn't see them. And so people, you know, that don't have access, they don't have cars, they walk to the Aldi, there's a lot of foot traffic, more than I think we realize. So the question really is, you know, is this amount of money, like what's it going toward? People aren't gonna stop walking, they're just not going to. It's only gonna get more expensive if we put it off. And we've already spent a significant amount of money and time, you know, trying to make this happen.
Well,
You know,
we've invested in
connecting
the
these-
study. I mean, that's all we've done at this point.
Well, I
Well,
know,
for
but
this
when the Aldi
particular-
was built, Sean, I mean, we spent some time trying to, you know, having
But that
gotten
only
built.
was all private developers who paid the money, not us.
I
This
know,
is
I
us.
understand that, but it is in our comprehensive plan, is it not?
Yeah, but so many other things are in the comprehensive
And we also
plan.
did the
Yeah,
Rosedale.
but this is a critical piece, I believe, of the sidewalk structure between the borough, let me finish,
Yeah.
borough and into the Goshen Plaza. And it's a real safety issue here.
That's a separate issue, so we need data to say it's a separate
I
issue.
disagree with you.
Don't be so
How is that a
nervous
separate
about
issue?
this, okay?
We're
We're
talking-
expressing our opinion.
I
You've had a
know.
lot of time to talk.
Well, he said it was a safety issue.
Well, I'm just
You've
saying-
had a lot of time to speak tonight, Sean. Just let
Okay.
John finish his point,
Yeah,
please.
the safety issue here could be largely resolved by having a place for people to safely walk between the borough and up to Goshen Plaza. And that would be the sidewalk. Right now, they're walking in the street. That's
I
a
agree.
safety issue.
Yeah, and that's.
And this is the solution to that.
Okay.
And I think as township supervisors, it's part of our responsibility to the township residents and others to provide that safety factor. And this is what that would be. I understand it's gonna be some money, but we have the money to spend and we can plan for, look, we can apply for grants for this.
That's what I was going to suggest. Is this a grant-funded project? Would PennDOT be a source of funds to pay a significant sum of money here to fix this area of their highway?
Well, PennDOT and also others as well. We got the
Yeah.
multimodal grant that helped us with the Rosedale sidewalk. Yeah, there's a lot of opportunities out there for applying for grants. And I feel this particular project is an important one for us to pursue for the benefit of our residents.
And I'd also like to just say, how much money are we pouring into rebuilding our stormwater infrastructure, right?
So-
This is something that is a benefit to the township. I feel like it's equally as important as something like that, if not more so, because I really feel like people's lives are on the line when they're walking down that stretch of road.
Just a point of clarification, Rosedale was not multimodal
Oh, I'm sorry.
grant. It was a
Okay,
local
so
services
the
grant.
second.
Montgomery Avenue was a multimodal transportation.
So I think that the conversation that we could also have is where could we cut, you know, in our own budget, maybe to support, you know, further allocate money to this sort of project.
And how much more is supposed to go into that fund where we have $30,000 right now?
We haven't seen the construction, Chris, we haven't seen the construction cost estimates for the Virginia Avenue project yet, have we? No, that was the other major one that was gonna be contributing, but I don't know
So we're building a fund here for sidewalks that can't be put in other areas that would require developers to do. This is a perfect project to find that one.
I agree. But Chris, now as far as the issues we're encountering with pole and also, grade road going into the cemetery too much, is there any way we can, in the other direction, because we have a median strip there and we have the street. So instead of going in, towards the cemetery direction, we have the space. I know there's certain requirements that this road has to be certain wide and the median has to be a certain, but is there any possible engineering way to do that?
Yeah, this was something I was going to bring up after your discussion, but I think there is an opportunity to have a discussion with PennDOT right now and find out what the ultimate goal for that lane that is not being utilized now, since it has been restriped.
Right.
Perhaps there is the opportunity to occupy that lane now with sidewalk, as opposed to roadway. We proceeded as if that might be utilized in the future, so we kept the existing curb line where it's at. But I think it'd be helpful to find out where PennDOT was going to go with this particular lane.
It'd be a lot cheaper. It'd be a lot cheaper. It would solve some of our issues.
Are those businesses up
Certainly.
there?
Yeah.
On that side?
No, there's nothing there. There's no.
No, it's just,
So what were the easements that you were talking about?
we're just outside of the ultimate right of way this time. It's the improvements. So that we would need additional right of way.
So maybe what we need to do as a next step is contact PennDOT to see if we're able to move it the other direction, and then have a discussion on where we go from there and what the cost will be associated with that option.
And also part of it, we started a discussion about that corner also. That corner, there's tractor trailers come up there and run them right up on the side. They rip down signs. In fact, I think their sign is still laying down.
So before we spend any more money on engineering, we need PennDOT's input on that, because that's going to have to be redesigned if they agree to the fact that it can come out further. So that's the position I think we should take next. And if you all agree with that.
Chris, can we apply for more grants, or we still have two open with PennDOT and Multimodal?
Well, I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, I don't know if this would be something that would be eligible for multimodal, because it's only one form of transportation at this time. I think it would be more like an LSA application, which you can apply for as many as you want.
I think we'd probably want to explore whether or not this would be an eligible project under the multimodal when the meeting with PennDOT were to occur.
Yeah, that's an option.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, it really only involves pedestrian access. I know we combined with Montgomery Avenue vehicular and pedestrian access. So.
Right. And then when those discussions do happen, we can determine whether or not, because we have an open multimodal grant happening right now with the Montgomery Avenue project, does that preclude the township from applying for additional funding? And we can get clarity at that time.
So it sounds like a meeting with PennDOT is
Yeah,
all of it.
yeah, that's the next step.
So how can we set that up?
I would probably look to Chris to try and coordinate that with a contact at District 6.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay. So that's the action from this agenda item. Is there any public comment on the discussion? Doug?
I've agreed about the public safety, pedestrian safety. I think that the wall is too close to the cemetery. I would not do a sidewalk there as it is. The cemetery is sort of a sacred space people visit. I would put the sidewalk away from the cemetery. Please remember, I know you're talking a lot about public, pedestrian safety. 12 years have passed and there's nothing been done about storefront safety, which I've been trying to bring up. When the Audi was built, they put these bollards, they don't do anything to protect the storefront. We don't have anything in our subdivision land development ordinance. We should consider storefront safety. This is good, I mean, conceptually, but I think that sidewalk is too close to that cemetery if it could be moved out a little bit. And then you won't have to do the wall, which would reduce the cost.
That's what we're trying to do, Doug. We're going to talk to PennDOT about that.
Right.
That's the option we're trying to propose to them.
So that wall is, I guess it has to be an MSC wall. It's too close. Yeah, okay.
Anyone else with comments about the project? Sorry, Steve.
Yeah, that's right. No, John and I have been working on this for a while, and I really do believe it's brought up, this is a public safety matter, as well as it just gives the township residents a way to get from one place to another.
Is this the last connector for the whole road?
It connects the whole road. You know, we talk about these sidewalks to nowhere with, every time we get in front of the planning commission or even here. And this actually now connects point A to point B, okay, which is ultimately what we're trying to do.
And it's well utilized,
And it's,
too.
yeah, every time, it was actually mentioned, every time I drive that, which is often, there's always somebody walking on the road because they can't walk safely. Or if it's raining, or where there's snow, they don't have a place to go.
And that hill was plowing.
Yes.
It's so steep.
Yes, but there is, as Chris mentioned, I think there is probably enough footage there to be able to do that. But you're not going to learn until you start to dig.
Any other comments?
I'll just comment, especially with the Friends Association home now there. I see a lot more people using that bus stop, so it just adds more pedestrians to that. I agree when I look at this, it just is a shame it's such, it seems engineering wise, that like it's a really tough project, but I'm happy to see $250,000 going to sidewalks instead of, you know, sometimes I beef with stormwater basins, it's like I don't think we're really getting any type of benefit from that. So I'm happy to see money being spent on sidewalks.
Thank you, Margie. Anyone else? Okay, so we have an action to work with PennDOT via Chris
Four other options.
for a little redesign of options. Okay, we'll move on to agenda item number 8, discussion regarding the Basin Road Stream Bank Restoration Project. So let me introduce it and then Chris can give the details. So before the board this evening is discussion regarding the Basin Road Stream Bank Project. This project is part of the Township Pollution Reduction Plan, the PRP. By way of background, at the February 21st meeting, the board approved a proposal from Carroll for professional services for the Basin Road project. The original plan was on the southern portion of the property. After review in coordination with the PADP, it was determined that project was not viable due to various reasons. After regrouping, the project shifted to the northern portion of the property near Warren Road, which was determined to be viable. The township worked with a neighboring property owner to secure a temporary construction easement to complete the work. At the April 7th meeting, the board approved a temporary construction easement with the owners of 1124 Warren Road for access to the project site. The plans for the project have been finalized a bit, and the project's been allocated in the 26 budget from the Capital Reserve Fund. Prior to soliciting bids, we are looking for the board to have the opportunity to ask questions, provide input on the plans. Chris, have you got any other comments color comments to it?
Well, just that, you know, the map before you here is the area that was previously selected and included in the PRP plan. When we went ahead and surveyed it, you know, you can sort of see some of the features that inhibited us from actually completing the project in accordance with the PRP. We had a lot of pristine wetlands that were surveyed back there, and there were a lot of specimen trees, and it just, you know, just wasn't the right spot for this project. And in coordination with DEP, they agreed this did not appear to be a good candidate for this particular project. So as a result, we regrouped and we moved further up the same waterway to a township-owned parcel that is between Warren Road and David Lane here. And that's what's shown before you here. This is the waterway, the same one. Basin Road, the original location would be further down the water course, somewhere down in this area. So under our original proposal, we resurveyed this area and came up with a revised design to satisfy the goals of the original PRP This was laid out as BMP 05A at Basin Road. The original credit for pounds per year with this stream rehabilitation was 49,450 pounds per year. Fortunately, I'm happy to report that the revised design actually results in a 30% increase from what PRP plan had proposed.
You said 30%?
A 30% increase, yes. So that would be 64,400 pounds per year that is being credited towards the PRP as opposed to the original 49,000. So that was a benefit. The easement area that was recently acquired, at least the temporary easement, is shown in the yellow area here. It was generously granted by the Powells here. This area is to be used for a staging area. So just to walk you through the general concept of the stream restoration project, the goal here is this stream was identified to have vertical faces along its banks. So we're seeing erosion that is happening from soils that were deposited there over the last 100 years, largely due to farming and deforestation that had happened at that time. All those soils washed down into alluvial floodplains, and they created this high erosion scenario around all of our waterways. The goal of stream rehabilitation projects is we remove those faces and pull the slopes back. So we're removing some of these legacy soils, reestablishing what would have been a native-looking stream, what you would have seen way back when. So we're putting in more gradual slopes. We're allowing floodwaters more room to expand within the confines of the stream, and removing a lot of that erosion that's happening directly adjacent to the stream. So that's the goal of the project. And coupled with that, so fortunately with having to remove these soils, some of the trees needed to be removed. So we have a rather robust landscape plan to reestablish trees, and that's another big piece of stream restoration projects, is that we want to make sure we get adequate plantings, both with new trees and also adequate bank stabilization. So we do have a very specific system that we're going to use to reestablish the banks in a more fortuitous way, I think. It's putting in pre-seeded logs of mulch and soils, and when those logs are installed on the new banks, they basically reseed themselves and provide stabilization, as opposed to having to seed, reseed, try to mat those areas. It may get washed out with rains. It's stabilized from the get-go, and then it vegetates on its own. So, and then Chris, if you wouldn't mind going to the landscape plan. So you'll see some of the new trees that we're putting along here, and a lot of those are abutting the rear yards of the Powells. Here's the soil stockpile area. This is where the equipment would come in to remove those soils, accessing this area from Warren Road. Be happy to answer any questions for you.
Thank you, Chris. Questions from the board about the design, the intention?
Can I borrow my water back?
That's yours.
Is there any soil sampling that's going to be required for analysis?
None that I'm aware of.
It's not a requirement.
No.
So there's no potential to contaminate.
Sure of none.
This land was, I believe, dedicated to the township at the time that the Glen Acres development was done, or this section of that community was completed. So it's roughly about 20 acres all in, and it's been wooded open space as far back as I can see. Records of it. I don't know what it was before that area was developed.
Contributing drainage areas is largely residential. I don't know of any industrial or commercial uses really, except for maybe the Wawa at the intersection of, it's further upstream. I'm trying to remember. Yeah.
Would it be advantageous to do a phase one there?
I would say that's not typical of stream restorations.
How long is this going to take the project? Do you anticipate?
This is a 120-day contract.
120 days.
Now, the reestablishment period is going to take a little bit longer for the vegetation piece of it, but the actual physical construction work would be in the 120-day range.
And what will the temporary easement area look like when it's cleaned up? Is it just restored? What is it now?
It's just lawn area, and it will be restored to its pre-construction. And that was part of the easement agreement. So.
But there is a section adjacent to that along here that belongs to the township, correct? So we will have access off of David Lane or Warren Lane to go into there and for the future maintenance that may be required.
Correct, and there's also an easement you can see over there, just north of where you were just pointing. So.
Now also there's a culvert coming off of Warren Lane. It goes across a property here.
To your right?
Oh, over here?
Right there. Mm-hmm. So part of this project, we have operational
Yeah,
issues with that culvert currently. Where it outflows, there's a bit of a high spot in the stream, and it caused an impoundment of water right there, which has been the subject of resident complaints.
Yes.
That is being alleviated as part of this project too.
The resident complained the water sits in there year round.
Yes.
And it becomes a breeding ground for mosquitoes. And that's another reason why this project is worthwhile. So that will drain properly once this is done.
Correct.
Okay.
And what's the timeline for the bid schedule and construction work? What's kind of?
We're waiting on authorization, but we're ready to move quickly. So
you need authorization tonight, or have you already given it, or are you waiting for authorization from?
Just to bid the project.
It's included in the budget, so there's really no action that's required. This was an opportunity for the board to have input on the final design plan before we put anything out to bid.
Okay.
Not to ask any questions.
Construction's expected in the fall then?
Probably late summer, early fall. Yeah.
So we're ready to go put it out to bid then, correct?
Unless there's any questions, comments, concerns that the board may have on the design plans, I think Chris is ready to move forward.
I have nothing. Anyone else?
Go for
Is there any public comment? Margie, you have a comment?
Yeah, Chris, could you explain what that concrete culvert is in that stream channel that's all graffiti? Where is
I'm not
that?
sure I'm aware of what you're talking about.
I went back there, I never knew something like that existed. It's just graffiti, and when there's a lot of rain, there's a lot of water that goes through it.
Could you point out where you're
I think it's more
talking?
off of Basin Road. I can't picture where this is.
I think that's much further down this water course. I think I know where you're talking about.
Okay, and then there's this storm drain that is just covered with debris that I don't think anybody ever
Are you talking about the basin facility along Basin Road?
Yes.
The long facility with the riprap in it?
Send a picture tomorrow. It's
Okay.
all graffiti. Have you ever, anybody seen this thing?
I think
It's
I
like
have. It's further down.
It's
Yeah,
further
this
down.
much further down by Basin Road itself.
Yeah, it just looks like it needs attention. I just thought if something's done on this stream channel, that just looks like it's in need of some kind of attention. But
Okay.
I'll send pictures tomorrow.
Send a picture.
Anyone else with a comment on this agenda item? Very good, Chris. Good. We'll get it out to bid and move it along.
Yeah, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 9 is discussion regarding the due diligence work for the Goose Creek property that was recently completed. So before the board this evening is a follow-up discussion regarding the due diligence work completed on the Goose Creek parcel behind the Aldi grocery store. At the October 21st, 2025 meeting, the board heard a presentation from Land Studies on the feasibility of a stream bank restoration project on this parcel. Subsequently, the board approved a proposal by Carroll to undertake due diligence work on the property. The work consisted of sampling soil and groundwater in order to determine if there was any impact on the ICI Americas TCE side, which is to the north. These findings close the proposed sample locations that were included in the proposal approved by the board. Chris is here to discuss the next steps and the results of the sampling, which was largely non-detect for all compounds being tested for the project area, particularly those noted in the nearby cleanup. The compounds that were detected, they were found to be below permissible thresholds, and the report summarizing the results is actually come today, but we haven't had a chance to really look at that yet. So Chris, do you want to just summarize the next steps and where we are?
Sure. Yeah, so we got favorable results back for the sampling, and we touched largely on the results of that. So we tested 48 compounds. All but 2 came back as non-detect. The 2 that had come back with that were detected were acetone and methyl acetate. However, I will note that these samples were well below the threshold. Acetone was at 0.0002% of the standard for acetone, and as well as methyl acetate was at the 0.001% of the standard for that particular compound. So well below the limits. So I don't know that any, our conclusion was that no further sampling appears to be warranted at this time, and that this area appears to be a good candidate for the floodplain restoration project. We've had discussions to that effect with land studies, and they are presently working with Goose Creek Watershed Alliance, who has a Growing Greener grant right now. And Ben Euler with Land Studies has indicated that they want to proceed with the preliminary phase of the design for the floodplain restoration project using those funds through the Goose Creek Watershed Action Committee. He also provided further guidance, and this is something that he previously touched on with the board, is that there are grant funding streams available for this project. It is a good candidate for certain funding streams, one of which is coming up in short order. That is the Growing Greener grant. It has a max request of $500,000. Again, this project is well fitted to this program, and the submission date for that would be June 22nd. So if the board is so inclined, we could share a proposal for our office to prepare that grant application in time for the June 22nd application deadline. And also in coordination with our, with Land Studies, they feel that, based on their experience of having used this program on other projects of similar scope and nature, that the township is well positioned to actually get funding through this program. The fact that the site was prioritized in the Goose Creek Watershed Action Plan is a strong contributing factor to that. We have collaboration between that action committee and also the township. We've already completed a feasibility study, we've completed sampling, so again, a lot of these things can contribute to the match component of this grant opportunity, which is 5% max minimum. And I would say the township's already met that out of the $500,000, and so it just seems like a good opportunity.
Chris, do we have an estimate for what the total project cost would be? Do we ever get that from Land Studies or someone?
I don't recall seeing that because we don't have a final design yet. I don't, Chris, do you have to recall if Ben had a figure associated with that?
I feel like you might have. Let me look.
Well, I think applying for this grant, is it the Growing Greener one that's the $500,000 max?
Yes.
Yes, I would be in favor in having Carol put together a grant application.
I would agree, absolutely.
Yeah, that would be good.
So Chris, on the grant application, you need to prepare a proposal of services for us to approve at the June 2nd meeting, and then we can approve it. You can still meet this June 22nd deadline?
Yes. Okay. And that'll be within the scope of any of the other grant opportunities we submitted for in the past. It'd be pretty equivalent, I would say.
Yeah, same kind of.
It's the same process.
Yeah.
You'd
Same.
be asking for the max amount.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Any other questions? Anyone in attendance with a question?
So it looked, they did provide a preliminary cost estimate. It looks like it was between $500,000 and $625,000.
For this one, that wasn't bulk and part, that was just this one, right? It wasn't both these together.
This appears to be the Albee parcel.
Would you be reaching out maybe for letters of support from like Goose Creek Alliance, Senator Camilla, Frank Daly, anyone like that? Is it beneficial to include
Oh,
the
absolutely.
borough, or I don't know if the borough would have any interest in
We
it?
would absolutely contact our state representation for letters of support.
And
We
Goose
do
Creek
that.
Alliance too, I think they would really be happy to provide a letter.
We do that with every grant application that we do. We can absolutely do that.
Yeah, let's do that.
And yes, that was in the study that was done for the Turner Lane Stream Restoration Feasibility Study, which would be this parcel.
Now, the stream restoration would be throughout that entire 10 acres that we, inherited from Ellie?
Yes. In fact, I have this, I'm trying to think where the sketch is. Oh, I don't know if it's something we can pass down to you, but so I would say it occupies about 75% of that area. I don't know if you can see this here, but the green space is the area that would be improved. The parcel continues on down this far, so there is some unoccupied area. We're just focused on the floodplain area here per land study sketch.
Okay.
Would this have any implications on what's happening down on Montgomery Avenue?
It would certainly have a benefit.
In terms of access to do the work, is there constraints? I know you had to get permission from Aldi to get in there to do the sampling, right? So would we need an easement from private property owner to get in there with construction equipment?
I think the best option would be to access the site through the existing pump station parcel that's there and adjacent to the stream owned by the authority, and that's at the end of East Washington Street.
Okay.
And what from Charter Lane?
And since we're already working within the creek, we have access to the side, excuse me, that we previously needed access from Alley to get to, since we're already going to be, we needed access from Alley because we didn't want to cross the creek in that particular instance.
Yeah.
But since the work is occupying the creek, that wouldn't be the case this time.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, so we'll have a proposal probably for our next meeting to get the grant submitted. Is there any other action from that? Is there anything to do with land studies, Chris, on that or not?
It doesn't sound like it to me, because we're going to get a proposal from Chris's office for consideration of the June 2nd meeting, and then we can go from there to meet that deadline.
I think in the future, when they complete the preliminary design for the floodplain restoration, they may approach the township with the final design costs, which you may or may not choose to do before you've heard about the grant award. You would be well positioned to apply for grants come the spring, because there's other opportunities available. So if you so choose, you could proceed with the final design and have that in hand for future grant applications.
You think we'd be looking at an announcement probably sometime second quarter 2027?
I think so.
And this goes
For the Growing Greener grant, the announcement would be when?
probably the second quarter of 2027. You're typically looking at like an 8 to 12 month timeline for hearing on the awards. And this goes through DEP, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Was there any more items for Chris tonight? Chris, it's 8:40. If you would like to say goodbye and leave, I think that would be okay with the board. I don't think we need you to sit through the rest of the meeting. So.
Thank you for having me tonight.
Yeah, thank you for your input. All right, so we'll move on to agenda item number 11, which is discussion and possible approval. 10, discussion and possible approval of a supplemental proposal from Gilmore and Associates for completion of the comprehensive update to the West Goshen Township zoning ordinance. Chris.
Mr. Chairman, before the board this evening is a supplemental proposal from Gilmore and Associates for completion of the update to the township zoning ordinance that's currently underway. The original price for the project that was approved was $84,620. The supplemental proposal outlines an additional cost of $5,000 to $7,000 to complete the project. Judith Stern Goldstein provided a letter dated May 12, 2026. And this is the result of additional items that were not foreseen at the outset that resulted in more time to fully integrate into the complete document. So I did review the proposals that were submitted, and at the time, Gilmore & Associates was the second lowest respondent to the request for proposal that was issued, and even with an additional $7,000 added to the project cost, they would still be the second lowest respondent based on all the proposals that were received. I did speak with Judy about a timeline to complete the project. I do anticipate receiving the final version of the updated zoning ordinance next week. We're going to present this to the board for authorization to advertise at the June 16th meeting, as I'd like an opportunity to review the draft. Assuming the board authorizes the advertisement of the new zoning ordinance, it would then go to the Planning Commission and the Chester County Planning Commission for to schedule a public hearing for the board, in front of the Board of Supervisors at the August 4th meeting.
Thanks, Chris. Does the board have questions for Chris?
Chris, do you recall the original amount we had budgeted for this zoning rewrite?
It was $84,620.
How much?
$84,620.
That was how much we budgeted for?
Yes, because we did, well, we did the, are you talking about when we initially,
Yeah,
before
I
we
think
issued?
it was much higher than that.
Before we did the RFP, our thought process was $150,000.
Correct, it was 150 grand.
And we
This
did,
is well below that.
yes, and we did get a response from the RFP that was for $150,000. But they were still, they were the second lowest respondent, and they would still be the second lowest respondent. It's still well below the initial projections.
Any other questions for the board? Yeah, we need, so now we need a motion to approve the additional cost for Gilmore and Associates
Second.
for an amount not to exceed $7,000. Is that acceptable to the board?
Yes.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any comment from the board or anyone in attendance? Doug?
I would be opposed to this because when we, at the land planning committee and from meetings, they knew very well about the historical ordinance. We've been working on that close to 10 years. I think that should have been known about. She knew about that. And also the data centers. They should know that the data centers are a thing now, and they're actually not new, because there's always been like the boroughs complex out on Different, which was a data center way back when, and I don't think that an additional cost is warranted or justified here. These things were known about, so that's my view. It should be completed as budgeted, even if it's still tax dollars. When I saw that, that kind of hurt me, but I guess we'll decide which one. That's it.
I disagree with you about the data center. I think that is a fast-moving thing that happened much more recently than when we awarded this initial contract for the scope of work. There was no expectation of doing work on that as part of the initial scope, as far as I recall.
The Gilmore is they've done a lot of these. Data centers it's not brand new. The internet's been around a long time. I think that unless we asked her to do more work, that's one thing. But I believe that Gilmore should stick by the original cost and just complete the job, even with these changes. Okay, she's got to reformat a document, big deal. It's all on the computer.
She did do more work. She did.
That's okay. That's okay.
Like in-person meetings with us, with our solicitor, with our staff, to talk about the direction we're headed with the data center stuff and the historical ordinance, trying to integrate that as best as we can.
But that should have been included in the original $84,000.
Doug, with all due respect, the Historic Commission sat on that ordinance for several years.
Well, we did. We're going back and forth. Yes, that's true. But it was known about.
Yes, but we didn't have a draft we could provide to them until like 2 months ago.
Yeah, so not to get into a debate with you, but I've worked in data centers just about my whole working career. You're right, they've been around forever, so long as we had computers. The point of it is that this data center wave that we're being hit right now is at such a much larger scale that it's impacting communities in ways, let me just finish, in ways never before. So as a result, municipalities are being caught without having proper ordinances in place to be able to regulate them, which we have to allow by law. Okay, let me just finish. So as a result, we've asked Gilmore, who's giving us the guidance in this zoning rewrite of the ordinance, of our whole zoning code, to come up with a zoning ordinance that would apply to this data center phenomenon, which is what we're dealing with now. So it is extra work that's being required on their part.
And as Ms. Gagne correctly stated, it involved meetings with our committee, it involved meetings with our solicitor to get this right. So your analysis of things is not accurate.
Well, I think it is, because when she initially came and gave a presentation, the assumption was she was going to include the current concerns of what we have to include and future ones that are already generally known about.
Yeah, and in 2024, they were not.
I think they were. There were, she was told that we are working on this ordinance for example, historical. We didn't have a draft, but I still think, I don't know. That's just my opinion, that's all.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
Thank you, Doug. We understand it. Is there anyone else with a comment on the motion? Okay, we're ready to take a vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Is there any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes 5-0. On to agenda item number 11, discussion and possible approval of an exoneration of an uncollectible delinquent real property tax lien for the parcel in the township. So before the board this evening is consideration of an exoneration of uncollectible delinquent real property tax lien for property in the township. Information is provided from the Chester County Tax Claim Bureau regarding the matter, requesting if the board will exonerate the uncollected delinquent real property tax for the parcel. The amount of the exoneration would be $8.87. As noted in the correspondence, the mobile home that was previously on the lot has been removed. Is there any questions about this?
It's only $8.87, so I really don't think that we're talking about more than $5.
Unfortunately, I didn't feel comfortable, since it said the board, I didn't feel comfortable handling this.
Oh, no, absolutely.
I make a motion.
I'll second.
What is the motion, please?
The motion would be to exonerate the tax parcel, the tax lien as identified by the Chester County Tax Claim Bureau.
Thank you. And Nate, you would second? Okay, is there any comments or questions on the motion? And we'll take the vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes 5-0. Agenda item number 12. Kim, if you want to leave, we appreciate you being here this long. I'm sure you're itching to go.
I got to say like 10 words, that was it.
Well, you never know. It could have been some other subject that came up we needed your help with. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Chief Carroll.
Good evening. The report from the police department for April of 2026, we responded to 1,259 calls for service. 35 of those were alarms and one was found to be a valid alarm. We responded to 70 accidents, 18 of which were reportable accidents, and we drove a total of 16,305 miles. We performed extra traffic enforcement on Bailey Pike, Applegate Drive, Rosary Lane, North 5 Points Road, 322 Bypass, Grove Road, Taylor's Mill Road, South New Street, South High Street, and Halverson Drive. And along with our normal monthly trainings and updates, Officer Hero attended a cell phone investigation techniques class. Sergeant Sedlak performed some Police One training, which is a training, our online training that we have at the department. He performed some extra training. Officer Ash, Officer Burnt, Officer Needham, and Officer Walsh attended an acting in rank training. What's that? That's the beginning of supervisor training, it's like the first level. And then Officer Burnt, De Leon, Lieutenant Grantizio, and Officer Kenna attended field force training. We performed 29 assists, or excuse me, we received 29 assists from other departments and performed 26 assists to other departments, and the assists to other departments were just shy of 17 and a half hours. We also have a community meeting coming up next Wednesday at 6 p.m. in this very room. I'm happy to announce that one of our injured officers is back to duty. Great. So we only now have 3 to get back. The sign-up is open for our summer gumshoe camp. The beginning dates are July 6th, August 3rd, and August 3rd, or excuse me, July 6th and 13th and August 3rd. And we're less than halfway full on all of those.
And what grade is that again?
4th going into 5th. So that's the report. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the chief?
A couple of questions. On the community meeting next week, what's going to be the topic or the agenda of discussion?
Along with our data, it's going to be community police.
And would you be sending out another notice just to remind folks?
Yes.
For this? Okay. Great, good to see you. Ever hear from Chief Lee from Monroe?
No, sir.
Yeah. Okay.
Don't expect it.
At least he was asked to.
Several times.
When you selected the enforcement list, there were a couple of issues that came up in the past month about certain intersections. One was Sunset Hollow and Grove. I see that's on your list for selected enforcement. There was another intersection, in fact, it was just brought up tonight again, West Town Road, Falcon, Little Shiloh.
Yes.
I don't see that on this list here.
It didn't make the top list, but it did get attended to, I believe, on the traffic unit report that they performed extra traffic enforcement there. But let me make sure that before I...
Did I miss that somewhere?
It's a separate report, but I'm checking it now. Maybe it's not on there. I'll have to check, because I thought they did do work down there. I don't see it on the list.
Well, I just, the point I'm trying to line it, could we do that? Could we have?
Yeah,
some-
yes, that's definitely on that. There's a quite a
Location.
long list of places we have to
Yeah,
go.
I hear you. But that is one area that's indeed a real problematic.
Yeah, the accident data has spiked recently. Over the years, it was usually a couple of accidents a year, some years without any. Last year, I think there were 6. So there was a spike recently, and I don't know the reason for that, but certainly if the spike continues, no problem, it's going to be out.
Do we think the volume and the speed on that road is increasing over the years, or at least recently? I mean, there's definitely more volume around the township in general. I don't see why that would be any different.
I wouldn't see why that would be any different either. I know there was a traffic study before, but it's not recent, and that's probably on the list of things to do.
Okay.
How's the fleet doing, like the condition of the vehicles in general?
Our vehicles?
Yeah.
So we're getting rid of the 2 Tahoes, which have been a thorn in our side ever since we had them. So once we get rid of those 2 and get the new cars in service, which is probably a couple months out before that's done, I think we'll be in good shape.
Any other questions from Chief? Steve?
Just an observation. Might the chief's report be done sooner in our agenda, unless there is some need for the chief to be here? I mean, I've sat through a lot of these, and might be better use of his time if he doesn't have to sit here.
Thanks for the
Listen
suggestion,
to
Steve.
stormwater management.
Yeah, I mean, it tends to fit in with the rest of the reports, that is all, but we can certainly talk to the chief about how it's impacting him and see if we can change it around a
I'm
little
hungry,
bit.
that sounds impacted.
Doug?
I want to do him a favor before somebody else is doing it.
How much did you pay him for that, by the way?
I can't disclose that.
Full disclosure, I did warn the chief that it might be a little long, so I did warn him that today.
No, I kind of like
Okay.
2 officers in the room, all right.
The Chevy Tahoes were used as patrol vehicles,
Yes,
and they're big SUVs, right?
correct.
And you said they were problematic.
Very.
How were they problematic?
They burn oil like a fire. We have to put oil in them probably close to every week.
And you're replacing them with standard?
With the Fords. The Ford Interceptor and the other SUVs we have.
The smaller ones?
Yes.
So it's interesting, so that they just were bad engines.
I can only comment on those 2, they were horrible.
Okay, all right.
Any other questions for the chief? All right, thank you, appreciate it. Next on the agenda is Board of Supervisors announcements. Just FYI, as I usually say, the reports from the Good Fellowship Ambulance Company and the 2 fire companies is available as part of the information online. Agenda item 13, Board of Supervisors announcements. Ashley, would you like to start?
I do not have any announcements.
Thank you, John.
Sure. Wednesday, May the 20th, I attended, I had the wrong teacher. Anyway, I attended the, excuse me, groundbreaking the Charter Senior Living Center in Westchester. It's at the site of the old Quality Inn. This is going to be a 175-unit assisted living facility and also a self-storage facility. Then on the Friday, May the 1st, attended the Eastern Atlantic State Carpenters Open House in Philadelphia. It offered opportunities for apprenticeships leading to careers for young people in our community to pursue building trades. And on Tuesday, May the 12th, participated in the Traffic Safety Committee meeting. We discussed traffic concerns at Falcon and West Town Roads, which was discussed earlier tonight, and also at Grove and Sunset Hollow Traffic Division will be conducting safety studies to assess volume of speeding and accidents at these junctions, these locations. And later that day attended the Planning Commission meeting as the Board of Eyes. On Wednesday, May the 13th, attended the joint Parks and Recreation board meeting with the reps from the splash pad vendor to review and discuss this project. On Saturday, May the 16th, attended the GFAC 75th anniversary event, and also today we had Public Works Appreciation Luncheon at our township's public works employees. The next police community meeting was already announced earlier, and that's going to be May 27th at 6 p.m. here at the township building. I finished my report.
Thank you, John. Nate?
Yeah, April 25th, I attended the police-sponsored Skaterama. The 27th, I attended the 250 Greater Westchester meeting on Zoom. Just to mention that May 30th is the big West Goshen, East Goshen sponsored event at the East Goshen Park. It'll start around 3 o'clock and go till 9:30. April 29th, I was also at the Charter Senior Living groundbreaking. April 30th, attended the talk on the Revolution by Jim Chris. May 13th, I was also at the Splash Pad discussion. May 16th, I was at the Community Fellowship community event. May 20th, I was at the Parks Commission meeting. That's all.
Thank you, Nate. Tina?
Yeah, I attended the same meeting as Nate and John, so I don't want to go through all of them. The additional ones were May 8th, where we did the Exton Library annual meeting, where they go over their reports. May 12th, the West Goshen Police Traffic meeting, and additional on May 14th, I attended the Chamber of Business and Industry event on women's influencing event, it was called. It was very uplifting and very well worth going. And then on April 21st, we did our COG meeting. We talked about the third-party strategic plan, the third party that's going to be doing the strategic plan. The bids went out on May 4th to 10 different contractors, and they'll be due back on June 21st, at which time we'll evaluate them and go from there, plan from there. That's it.
June 12th.
What is that? Yeah, backwards. Okay, that's all I have.
Thank you, Tina. The board met in an executive session on April the 24th to review a personnel matter, review the township manager's performance against 2026 objectives, and review personal and legal matters with the chief of police. The board also met in executive session on May the 5th to review a legal matter with delinquent sewer and trash accounts, and we've also met in executive session on May the 15th to discuss a real estate acquisition. I also attended many of the same meetings that have been discussed by the other supervisors. Does anyone have any questions for the board members? Okay, we'll move on to agenda item 14, which is the township manager's announcements. Chris?
Mr. Chairman, I'll keep this brief. The township's May newsletter will be issued the week of May 25th. Just as a reminder, the township offices will be closed on Monday, May 25th in recognition of Memorial Day holiday. That week, trash and recycling collection and bulk item collection will be pushed back one day due to the holiday, so it'll be Tuesday and Friday next week. There will be a CTY that's issued, and we posted information out on the bulletin board here, and I'll post information on the township website. In terms of our projects, as it relates to the Montgomery Avenue project, Carroll Engineering has been in contact with the utility companies to coordinate any work that they need to do, and they're also coordinating soft digs to locate the force main, which will require a highway occupancy permit for work in the right of way. They're anticipating to submit the HOP shortly, and it's expected to take 30 days for approval prior to the soft digs occurring. I've also received the grant contract from the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation for the Multimodal Transportation Fund grant that was received for that project. The construction work for the family bathroom project is underway. We've issued 2 payment releases that have been processed for this phase of the improvements. The final restoration for the North Hill Storm Sewer Improvement Project has occurred, and we're waiting final grass growth and the final payment application, and once that's done, we'll file for reimbursement under the grant with DCED. Also with Rosedale Avenue, all the site work is complete and the erosion and sedimentation controls have been removed. And we're waiting for final payment from that as well as the final bond for that work. The 2026 paving project is underway. They were underway in North Hill and Fresh Meadows neighborhoods, and I'm not aware of any major issues at this time. We have posted information about the project on the township website. Glasgow is handling all the notification to property owners. And then weather permitting, it should be completed by the end of May. And then finally, with the Cooper Smith Park Pavilion project, that work is scheduled to begin sometime the week of May 25th, and the goal is to have everything completed before the start of summer camp. And the codes department has issued all permits for the work associated with that project, and it's going to be inspected by Carroll Engineering. And then, as it relates to our Park and Recreation Open Space Plan, we received the final draft and provided comments to Tool Recreation Planning. Those have been updated, and we will schedule a presentation for the plan at an upcoming meeting of the board to consider authorizing the proposed plan for advertisement. We did provide it to the Park and Recreation Board to start looking at. And those are all the announcements I have.
Thanks, Chris. Anyone got questions for Chris?
Just a quick question on the Government Services Center Basin retrofit. Has the contractor come back to do a vegetation maintenance at that location?
I do not know if that's been scheduled. I know Chris has been in contact with them and provided them with the information they were looking to schedule that, but I don't know if that has occurred. I'll check with him.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, Chris, we're on to zoning officers' announcements. Have you any updates from zoning this month?
The only update that I have is that the zoning hearing board met on Monday the 18th to hear an application for the SPCA, which was an extension of their approval that was previously granted, and it's my understanding that that was granted by the zoning hearing board.
Okay. Any questions about zoning? Steve?
Yeah, they give your recommendations on the airport, or the rental out of the airport.
The goalie trainer application. The board approved that. The board granted the approval of the application at their April 27th meeting.
Any other questions on zoning? Very good. We'll move on to agenda item 16, approval of Board of Supervisors meeting minutes for April the 23rd. I provided one typo correction to Chris, so I will make a motion to approve the supervisor meeting minutes for April the 23rd. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Nate. Is there any other corrections?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Woolman also provided me with some corrections, and I made
It
them.
skips 15.
No, Chris just covered that. Any questions or comments from the board? Any public comments or questions? Okay, they'll take a vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes 5-0. Agenda item number 17 is approval of the treasurer's report dated April 30th, and the bills to be paid from the general fund, sewer reserve fund, the waste and recycling fund, and the capital reserve fund. I'll make a motion to approve the bills to be paid in the treasurer's report. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any comments or questions about the bills or the treasurer's report? Okay, we'll take a vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Is there any opposition? Hearing none, the motion passes 5-0. I move to adjourn the meeting at 9:06. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor of adjournment say aye. Aye. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, so I have 2 things here, and then all those plan sets over there.
It's something that kind of just popped up on the radar. So, I mean, they have to do extra work on that.